Well, hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's new episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends. And indeed, did I bring some friends with me, folks. This is a show that I've been waiting for quite some time. Not only because do we have a massive amount of big topics. We're going to be talking some E3. What is Xbox bringing to the table? What is this AAA shared world experience that Microsoft is publishing from a third party? Is it Splinter Cell? Is it something bigger? I don't know, but we're going to be asking those questions. And in order to answer them, I had to throw up a flare that I wasn't sure if this ship that is as big as he is was going to answer. And indeed, he did answer. Jeff Grubb, welcome to the program. Not only are you have been made famous from last year's Game Mess, which of course really threw you into the stardom, but I got to tell you, man, that mane of hair is really your signature thing. It's like when Hulk Hogan used to come down and rip off his shirt. You come out down the ring with that unbelievably giant mane of hair. How the heck are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. And unlike Hulk Hogan, I'm not racist. So I got that going for me, too.
Well, you know what? That's a great thing to say. You know what? Good on you for saying that.
Thanks for having me on. I mean, this is great. I'm looking forward to it. I always like to talk video games, especially on a Monday night. Let's do this.
Yeah, well, you know what? We do have a lot to get into, and obviously we are 54 days away from E3. I can't even believe that we're saying that. I mean, it almost seems like the year just started, and we're already talking E3 2021. And of course, this is not going to be the traditional E3 that we know, that we've seen. I was very fortunate enough to get to E3 2019. It's my first E3 ever, so it was a really big deal. It was incredible. It was a lot of fun. I was all prepared to go. The tickets were bought. The space was rented, and of course, the world got thrown into a pandemic and that got canceled. Hopefully at some point, maybe next year, we get back to what we're used to. And that's kind of hanging out with the community. That's really what is the fun part of E3. But let's continue with the introductions. Next up, rookie sensation who stepped up to the plate once again. He is one of my co-hosts on the Xbox Factor podcast on Tuesdays. Pong Soul, welcome to the program, brother.
Hello, Boom. Hello, chat. Hello, panel, including Mr. Jeff Grubb. Absolutely. What an invite to get, Boom. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, you hit me up, and then I was like, wait. Tonight is the night he's got Jeff Grubb on. Are you kidding me? It is an honor and a pleasure to be here with him and with Mag and with Clowns and obviously Everborn. Man, what a great show we got coming up here on a Monday night. And just like Jeff just said, no better time to talk video games. And we got a lot to talk about. So let's get down to it.
Nice. Well, next up, you know him as someone that is not only an entrepreneur, not only an incredible panel member, but also an outstanding artist. Please welcome Everborn Saga. What's up, brother? How you doing?
What's happening? Not about me tonight, though. It is about the man with the greatest hair in the gaming industry, Grub Snacks himself, and shout out to the reference to 24-inch pythons.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Jeff, I got to ask you something before we continue with the introductions. You're good friends with Greg Miller, who I'm a big fan of. Love those guys over at Kinda Funny. He coined you Jeffrey Grubb. Where did that come from?
From the dark recesses of that madman's brain. He just one day, he's like reading a story that I wrote. And he's just like, well, we can't just call him Jeff Grubb. The name his mother gave him, that would be too respectful. So I'm just going to call him Jeffrey Grubb out of nowhere. And he never stopped. So of course it stuck. But yeah, also I made the mistake of being like, don't call me that. And so of course I made it just encouraged him even more. So
yeah, Greg's that kind of a guy who if he knows that you don't like it, he's gonna do it tenfold over.
One of those little kids that can't help themselves. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. But yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for clarifying that, because I was wondering where that came from, and I would, hearing Greg say that so much, I assumed he donned it, and here we go. The information has been confirmed. Next up, you know him as the loudest man that side of Canada, please welcome back middle-aged gamer guy, also known as the Mag.
Yes, well, good evening, Boom. Good evening, chat and panel. And of course, to our esteemed guest, Jeff Grubb himself. And by the way, guys, about an hour before the show, I started a GoFundMe page. And the GoFundMe page, all proceeds are going to go towards, I think that we should do a commercial with Jeff Grubb and Troy Polamalu for a Per Plus commercial.
I love
Okay? Per Plus commercial.
I'm down.
I want to see the hair in slow motion. That's what I want to see tonight. Jeff, turn your headphones down. It's going to get awfully loud tonight. But anyways, guys, we have a great show for you. We got great guests. We got great topics. Let's get right into it.
Oh, man. Thanks for being here, brother. And last and no way least, someone that has been making some tremendous headway in the industry. He is the showrunner of Four Guys with Quarters. Please welcome the Italian Clowns. What's up, Clowns? How you feeling, brother?
Hey, what's going on, man? Always a pleasure being here. Really excited to talk with Jeff Grubb. It's my first time speaking to him. I've spoken to him on Twitter, and I once read that he worked at Jimmy John's. I wasn't sure if that's true.
Right. That's true. Yeah, I did. Worked at a couple of Jimmy John's. Yeah.
Nice.
Nice. So
Yeah.
Jeff Grubb.
I love it.
Yes, I definitely delivered food, and yes, that occurred to me many times during that job. Yes.
That really is funny. You know what? I mean, that could have been his stage name, but that's actually his name, and he delivered food. Listen, we all start from humble beginnings. You know what? That makes us better people, and I think there's no one better in the industry right now than you right now, Jeff. Now, here's the thing. You know, I said it in the opening. We're 54 days away from E3, and we know that traditionally the gathering of E3 is not going to be the same. It's going to be a very digital heavy event because obviously COVID is still ravaging the entire planet. But one of the, we know that Ubisoft is going to be there. We know Nintendo is going to be there and a bunch of other partners. But on this show, as easy it is to pick any of those developers / publishers, the one that I wanted to talk about is what Microsoft is going to be bringing to the table. Now, today, you mentioned that you don't expect to see anything from Gears for quite some time, specifically this E3, because they have a lot to show. And you know what? That's fine. I think that people... I loved Gears 5. I actually got a chance to review it for Microsoft, which was an incredible opportunity. And I loved every minute of it. But I think that it's a franchise that can sit to the side for a while and let them try and do new and different things, considering there is literally so many studios and teams working on games. Jeff, for you, I know that we're still 2 months away from E3, but have you heard of what do you think Microsoft could bring to the table? I mean, are you expecting a blowout?
Yeah, I think that clip of me talking about that like popped off today, and I'm like, where did I even say that? And it was on one of my Game Mess shows. I'm like, okay, all right. So I was answering a question. Someone asked about Gears 6 and is it going to be there? And I said something along the lines of, they have too much going on. I should just be like, I want to make that really clear that Microsoft does have a lot going on, but don't take that as like, in the past, someone from Microsoft always say, this is the biggest and best E3 show we're ever going to have. And then they always get sort of bit in the ass by that because they don't always end up delivering. I'm not like trying to imply like this is going to be the biggest and best show ever. So there's no room for Gears 6. I'm not saying that much, but they do have a bit going on, and Gear 6 is just at a point where it's like, okay, if you didn't have games to show, would you put Gear 6 in there just to like fill out that roster? Maybe. And they're not going to do that. They don't need to do that. Gear 6 isn't ready, and there's no reason to like rush it and try to force it in there when you could show other games. Now, in terms of specifically about what they might show, so they're probably going to start with Halo. They're probably going to do a really long time with Halo, of course, and then we're going to get filled in with a few other games like Psychonauts 2, I would imagine would be there. I'm still kind of holding that torch for Forza Horizon 5, maybe this year, maybe at the E3, and then filled in with a few more surprises, and then probably close and then transition into Bethesda with Starfield is my guess, and then let Bethesda maybe surprise us with a few other things. But then then Bethesda opens up with Starfield, and then I'm really hoping, and this is just my hope, that we get Wolfenstein 3. I would really love that. I think if that was if those are their pillars for this show, I think they're going to be in a really strong position to like really wow people. Starfield alone should be enough to sort of get a lot of people feeling really good about getting an Xbox right now. So yeah, I think they could hang a lot on that, and then everything else could just be like icing on the cake.
I had a question for you. One of the things that we're starting to see Microsoft do is seem to be, Jeff, a page taken right out of Sony's playbook early in the last generation with the PlayStation 4 versus the Xbox One. A lot of their first party games were not ready. So what they did and what they relied on heavily was worth second and third party deals. And we're seeing that Microsoft has, again, taken a page right out of their book, because we're seeing that because Game Pass has become so prominent, it literally is on everyone's mind. And it has been since, the release of Octopath. Then you, of course, had Outriders. Then, of course, you have MLB The Show that's launching tomorrow. I mean, with all of that said, do you think that we're going to get to, do you think a lot of these games that we're all hoping that we get to play eventually are going to come out in 2022, 2023? And do we see something like Hellblade finally get a real E3 treatment this particular E3?
Yeah, it's possible. Like all of those games that they've already announced that they, as part of their run up to releasing the Xbox Series X and S, all of those games have the potential to show up here in some form. I do think most of them, the majority of them, are probably still in a state where they're going to need more time, significantly more time. And so that's going to leave this E3 relying on a handful of games that they know they can get out, and probably not too many brand new announcements because they've already announced a lot of their stuff. And so, yeah, like one of those games is probably more ready than the rest, right? Like, it's probably not Perfect Dark. Clearly, it's probably not Avowed or something like that. But if like Hellblade is within the next 12 to 18 months, maybe this is the time to just show us a quick gameplay snippet and get us, remind us about that game one more time. And then you could shut up about that game for another year. And then when it's 6 months out, then really start building it up again. I think that's possible. But I wouldn't be surprised if most of the games that we know about that are still far off end up in a situation where we are be like, hey, they kind of didn't even really talk about those games, or they just sort of showed them really quickly in a montage. And a lot of it was stuff we've already seen. I think that's really possible. And to your point, like they're making a lot of deals, and it's not just deals. They're like on a positive news assault. They have identified a problem, and the solution is, well, make more games faster. That's really hard, right? Like they're not going to be able to, they can only do that so fast, and so they can only make them so well if they try to rush them. They're not going to do that, or they're not going to wreck the game by trying to get it out the door faster. So what else can they do? They can say, hey, you bought an Xbox, you want to feel good about buying an Xbox. Here is just a bunch of news that we're going to continuously hit you with to make you feel okay about that while you have to wait. And a lot of that news is going to be something like MLB The Show on Game Pass, Outriders on Game Pass, stuff that's like, oh, okay, well, I already got this. Of course, I'm going to play this game. And I think that this is a solution that is working for them for now. And I don't think they're going to have to rely on it forever. But like through the end of this year, it could really carry them until they get to something like a Starfield or, of course, like Halo. So, yeah, I think they're handling the situation as best they can.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Pongso, let's get you in on the conversation here. For you, this is going to be a bit. Every year we look to, we look to E3. We look, obviously we want new games. We want the best games. We want, to be able to say this even topped last year's. And I think that, obviously there has been. The word delay is something that we have to understand is going to happen because of COVID. A lot of people don't understand, and Phil talked about this, how COVID was going to really put a damper on a lot of releases. But for you, what do you want to see Microsoft bring to the table for this particular E3?
Well, I think Jeff laid it out perfectly, and thank you, Jeff, because I'm still dying on the hill that Starfield is coming out this year, that God Howard is not going to disappoint us. So I appreciate the fact that you are on board with that. So yeah, obviously, again, yes, Halo. Of course, going to be a big blowout. That hype train is just starting up all over again since obviously what happened last year happened. And they need to get that again. Halo creates its own hype, but to get everybody to show everybody again, kind of a re-showing of what compared to what happened last year with something that, they can be proud of this year, and up to expectations is going to be vital, obviously to, quiet the crowd that still has some doubts about Halo, but also the main fan base, get them reinvigorated, going into holiday 2021. So that's going to be a huge blowout. Like Jeff said, Starfield, I expect to be there, and how he laid it out, being at the end of the show, rolling into Bethesda's showing makes perfect sense. And what a killer to have, what a killer title to have to end the show, from the Xbox side of things, Microsoft side of things, and then roll it right into Bethesda, right? That's beautiful. And I can't wait to see that happen. And I'm going to die on that hill. So I believe that's going to happen. In between, I think we do get a little bit more of a tease from Hellblade, depending on how far along that is. I think that would be something, if they are expecting it to be ready for next year, then I definitely think a little tease, a little something more than the, documentary that they gave us, last year, would be good. It would be, a nice little, kind of just like a, hey, guess what? Hellblade isn't that far off, guys and gals. So I think that would be something very good to throw in there. I think we are going to see some of the indie titles that we're missing from the last Idea at Xbox show on Twitch. Tunic being a big one. I think that might have a special place. Stalker 2.
Anticipated game in 2021.
Exactly. You know it, Everborn. So I think that they give, some select indie titles their proper spotlight at E3 as well. Stalker 2, if that is getting closer to being ready, I think the Ascent is primed to be showing off at E3, and then a stealth drop at the end of the show.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I'm not sure if you saw the interaction with Colt Eastwood, good friend of the show, panel member to RDX. They had responded to him. They said it's like 10,000 something, years away, and he went back and he backtracked that to January 1st moving forward in regards to minutes.
Okay.
And what wound up happening is it came down to a May something, like a May 18th release date. And then they wrote back to him something like, it was meant to be funny, but it was like, snarky. Like he might have figured it out. So I think we might get that in May.
Maybe we'll get it beforehand. I'm hoping so. That's been one of my own most anticipated titles as well.
Too.
I mean,
yes.
I cannot wait for that game. So I think we get a little bit of that, some of the smaller titles that may be coming out. And then I think, like Jeff alluded to as well, I've been saying all along that a lineup, it makes sense time frame wise. And again, it's all dependent upon how far these studios are with, what happened last year with the pandemic. And obviously they're still dealing with it now, but obviously time frame wise, it would make sense that Wolfenstein 3 is ready, which would be part of the Bethesda show. But I think that would be, again, we got to count it all as one, because it really is now. They're one big family. So I think Wolfenstein 3, Forza Horizon 5, if, and that's a big if, I've gone back and forth on this one now. If that thing is coming, then obviously that's going to be the place to show it, so that you have that triple-headed monster, or quadruple-headed monster if Wolfenstein's ready too, rolling into holiday 2021. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better lineup, even if they get, 2 or 3 of those. If it's a Starfield and Halo, that's perfect. But I think that's what you're definitely going to see. Psychonauts 2, especially, of course, that's going to be there. They just came out today and confirmed that they're still on for a 2021 release, which was a huge deal. A lot of people waiting on Psychonauts 2, myself included. I can't wait to see more of it. It's been a while since we've seen something from it, so I hope it's a big, giant blowout. Another one that's primed for kind of a stealth drop during E3. I think that would be cool. I mean, I would love it if they did something like that. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm expecting. I think their lineup's going to be full. And again, with Bethesda, who knows what they've got ready, or who knows what they've got in the works that they're going to want to show off. They always show up big at E3. So I got to imagine there's probably going to be some stuff that we maybe didn't know about or didn't think about that just all of a sudden appears from their part of the show, if they do split the shows up into two like that. But I think it's going to be a jam-packed. I think it's going to be an extremely effective showing. They are on a good roll right now with all the good news, and I expect that to continue because, again, this hype train has to get at full speed. When the consoles are hopefully available, holiday 2021 or late summer, early fall, hopefully, they have to have, that mind share, as much as they can grab, has to be there so that people are ready to plop down their money and get these series consoles or, wherever they're going to play, but get into Game Pass, which is obviously going to be the big push. I expect that we'll probably have some third-party deals lined up for E3 as well. Some surprises maybe just to drop in there as filler. Not the titles are not going to be filler, but the AAA, big AA stuff to keep pushing that momentum forward.
Yeah.
So I definitely expect that.
Nice. Good stuff as always, brother. Everborn Saga, let's bring you into the conversation. Everborn, everyone, Jeff and Pong alluded to them closing out with something potentially from Bethesda and then turning the show back right over to Bethesda, after a break. It would be pretty awesome if they closed with a Starfield trailer, and then, of course, like Pong Soul said, God Howard would open up the show with the release date. He's notorious for that. If it's coming this year, which I am on the same train, or you can call it the crazy train, if you will, of that's crazy train indeed. Of course, Ozzy Osbourne, very famous musician. If I believe that it's going to come out this year. What do you want to see from the Microsoft showing at E3 2021?
Well, I need to separate what I want to see versus what I think we'll see, and then what they should do, right? And so if it's what they should do, I don't know if they want to show Hellblade yet, because what I'm afraid of with Hellblade 2 is that we end up in another Halo Infinite situation. And the reason for that, not that I have any doubts that the game isn't going to look and be amazing, but they showed, that was the first thing we saw of the Series X when it was first introduced. Yes. I think it was 2019 or whatever that was.
Yep. Game Awards.
Right. And it looks so real, and so many fans have been touting that as the power. So if they show live gameplay at E3 and there is any sort of graphical downgrade, we'll never hear the end of it, right? And unless it's like the graphics are up to snuff and they look like what we saw in that pre-rendered trailer, which they don't need to be, but I know how the conversation goes. So I don't know if I'm showing Hellblade right now, because it could take away. It could give people some ammo that I don't know that you want them to have right now. So that's Hellblade, right? Starfield, I show Starfield, and I do not announce the exclusivity or not. Whether it is or whether it isn't, I don't say that at this show, because I want people talking about it until September when it comes out. And I want people arguing about it and people having FOMO about whether they're going to get it or not.
That's a fair point, but I really like the idea of Todd Howard coming out there and saying the date and it's exclusive to Xbox, right? That would seems like that'd be the biggest pop of the show, right?
You know what? I agree with you, Jeff. You know what? Here's the thing. Considering this will be the first time that they are together as one unit, right? Microsoft does their show, and then of course there's the little break, and then we start with the Bethesda show, which their shows, and I went to the one in 2019. I was able to get in there with press credentials. It was freaking amazing, and to get Todd Howard to potentially open the show, I think that really puts it stakes the flag into the sand. It's coming out, October, whatever, Xbox exclusive, Xbox and PC. I think that really, I think that dominates the conversation for months.
I don't disagree, right? I'm just saying, like, and it's 50-50, and you guys might be right, right? But what I'm doing is my story of E3 is the Halo return to form, rising again from the fall from grace from the previous E3, and Halo is the talk of the show, knocking everybody's socks off with the new graphical enhancements that they've done. Right, everybody's hype about Halo again. Starfield will take you later on when they drop that it's exclusive. But I want to play the mind game with people, right? now, right? And again, if it's me, Starfield's exclusive. I'm just playing with people's emotions, right? But lest we forget Crossfire X, right? Is that still coming out this year? Right?
Supposedly, yeah.
So that's a thing you show. Right? We already talked about Psychonauts. We already talked about Tunic. We already talked about what's the other one? Stalker 2, right? We know 12 minutes. We know The Ascent. These are all things you can show without really letting out anything in the clip. And then if they can do this, if they can pull this off, I don't know if this deal is already worked out or whether it's not even possible to do. But if you announce some big AAA third-party things coming in the Game Pass, like, I don't know, Battlefield 6, right?
Madden, FIFA,
right? Or if they can finagle a way to get what's it called? Final Fantasy, right? The next gen version of it, and the one with Yuffie. So Integrate, I think it's called.
Yeah, Integrate. That's the DLC.
That's where you announce that, right? But your mainline player is Halo, and then the other things you can save for later. So I think that they'd have an amazing show if Halo delivers, if they show Starfield, whether they announce that it's exclusive or leave it ambiguous, that can be argued. But I think between Crossfire X, Psychonauts, The Ascent, Tunic, a big third-party Game Pass announcement, I think people are super excited. And also, another thing that I know we're going to see there, don't forget Flight Sim on Series X.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Absolutely. Yep.
So when you show all those things we've talked about, and those are all things we know, and I think you got to have one surprise there, something that we didn't know was coming.
Oh, we're gonna get into what I think that surprise is. Yeah, we're gonna
and that's the thing. That's how you do it. But Halo should be the story of the show, and the other things you space those out because you want to keep the hype train going for the rest of the year. But E3 for me is Halo.
Oh, and that makes perfect sense. Halo for every for E3, this particular E3 is going to be a redemption story. Middle-aged gamer guy, let's get you on the conversation. Starting with talking about Halo. At this point, in June, Halo is going to be have had 10 and a half, almost 11 months of polish since what happened on July 23rd of 2020, where the gameplay looked fantastic, and for me personally, but I think that the graphical aspect it disappointed a lot of people, and that's fine if it did. I think that if you take a look at what that same team did with Halo 4 on the Xbox 360, it looked like a next generation game before next generation started. Halo 5, okay. I'm not a fan of the story. I've talked about this before, but you cannot argue what it looks like. It's gorgeous to look like at every turn. So I'm expecting 343 to deliver in a big way. For you, what are you expecting from this E3 for Microsoft specifically?
Well, you know what? The first things first, I'm not going to reiterate what everybody already said, but I will say one thing is that Everborn did talk about how there needs to be a focus on Halo. I agree and disagree, and I'll tell you why. I agree because, yes, that is the flagship title. That was supposed to be the launch title for the Series X, Series S. That was going to be it was on my Oreo box, for crying out loud. You know what I mean? It still is. Okay? Halo Infinite. It's on my Oreo box. Anyways, the point is, that was going to be the big flagship. It's not, but it will be this coming year. However, there's the other side of that. Now, the flip side to that, at least in my mind, is that no matter what they do, no matter what is done, no matter what is improved, I think for a lot of naysayers, there's still going to be that little bit of a stigma still hanging around in there. And they're going to say, well, it's just Halo. It's better now. But I think what they need to do, and I'm going to move a little bit away from Halo here, is that what I think they need to do is they need to introduce, like Jeff was saying, you got the Starfield, announce the exclusivity. You need something new for maximum impact. Okay.
Yeah.
When you're talking to a large crowd, Halo will turn heads. There's no question. But I think that Halo is going to turn heads once it's in the field, so to speak. Okay.
Yeah,
once
I
it's
agree.
out in the wild. But however, building up hype for it, everybody knows what Halo is already. Okay. Everybody's played Halo in one form or another. They know that Halo's coming. But if you want to, like I said, maximum impact, you want to strike hard and you want to strike fast, that's what you do. I think it's got to be, I think it's got to be from Bethesda, and I think it's got to be Starfield. Now, moving down the line, Psychonauts, yes, for sure. It's going to be there. Hellblade 2, here's another one I'm kind of on the fence about. I'm going to go back to Everborn on this one again. I think that Everborn is correct, that unless it's 100%, they better not show it. And that's what you have to do is you're going to have to do the Sony routine, okay? The silence until it's perfect. They might delay games like, Uncharted, this and that. Remember Uncharted 4 got delayed, 3-4 times? And they didn't talk about it. No one asked about it. They didn't talk about it. They weren't very forward about it. But man, when it was ready to go, it was ready to go. So, and that's going to be a big title because you know what? First impressions are everything. You remember that 2019 Game Awards? Okay, that trailer set the gaming world on fire. So now the expectations are, in my opinion, way too high. So you're going to have to match, or at least attempt to match those expectations. I mean, I kind of feel bad for them now because that's how they started the gen, so to speak, right? To me, I liken it to like what George Lucas, when he had to do episode 1. You know what I mean? The expectations between Return of the Jedi and episode 1, the expectations were way too high. There's no way he could have matched that, no matter what he did, right? So I kind of feel that because they've showed this Hellblade, everybody's like going, oh man, this is next gen. If it doesn't even come close to that, even if it comes close to that and a little bit under, people will still find something to complain about. So that's a tricky one. Now, Forza, it's been 2 years. It's been 2 years now. I think that something's got to come. And even if it's not a new game, it's got to be an expansion. There's got to be a new expansion coming, maybe for the Forza Horizon 4. Maybe not even call it Forza Horizon 4. Just call it Forza something or other. And make it like the Xbox version of your Miles Morales. You know what I'm saying? Like a smaller experience, but still compact, still complete. Maybe that kind of thing. But we don't know. This is all just speculation. Gear 6, no chance. No chance for Gear 6. There's no room for it. And now is not the time for Gear 6. Gears 6 needs time to breathe. The franchise needs time to breathe right now. I think that what they need to do is focus on these other titles, newer IPs, even, of course, the other ones. Like you got your Fables and stuff like that. Yeah, I know they're years off. I get it. But give them a little bit more showcase on what they're doing. And of course, what Bethesda's doing. Let me move on to Bethesda. Now you're looking at your Wolfenstein 3. I don't see any reason why that can't be finished by now. I mean, we didn't hear about it, but that's how Bethesda is. They kind of they play their cards close to their chest. And then of course the Starfield I already mentioned. Now the big thing, and I'm surprised nobody mentioned this already, by the way. How come nobody mentioned the thought, maybe like just as Ed, just a thought, bring Kojima out on stage.
Yeah. Yep.
He doesn't have to do anything. Just come out on stage. That's it.
They can just simply just announce the partnership. Yep.
Just something like
if that's all. Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, exactly, like Keanu Reeves. Yeah, it's like whoa. He doesn't have to do that, but just come out there and just do whatever he's got to do. But you got to get Kojima out on stage if, in fact, this is all happening, which it all seems to be pointing in that direction. Now, the other thing is also for maximum impact because you're not just trying to reach Xbox gamers. You are trying to reach all gamers. So that's where you're going to have to put another section of the show and a focus on third-party Game Pass announcements. Those are the ones that are going to draw the attention, just like Outriders, just like, as I like to say, the Thanos snap, okay, of the gaming world was when MLB The Show got announced for Game Pass. Okay, that's when everything changed. The Thanos snap. Okay, so they need to do another one of those. That's another thing. So that's what they're going to have to get the attention of gamers from other systems or people who haven't been able to buy a system because of the pandemic, okay, and the short supply, and people who are on the fence. And a lot of casuals don't really hold allegiances if they're not really You know what I mean? Like if they don't have a lot of friends on there, they just play like their FIFA and Call of Duty, and they just play with random strangers online, that kind of thing. Trust me, there's a lot more of them than people think, that don't get involved with that kind of thing.
No,
but now, my last thought, I don't want to keep rambling on forever here, but however, you've got to look at the competition. And that's something that is important, in my opinion, is something important that Microsoft is obviously doing. You also have to gear your show towards what you think the competition is going to do. So what I think is they've got, and you know what the thing is? Look at what's happening on the other side. Okay, the other side of the fence, Sony is meeting everybody with silence thus far. Okay, thus far. We haven't seen anything from this God of War Ragnarok, which I still don't think is coming out this year. We've barely seen anything about Horizon Forbidden West. We've seen almost no gameplay, definitely zero gameplay from the God of War front. And like I said before, Sony's modus operandi is silence until they're 100% ready. However, that being said, when Microsoft is crushing the spotlight right now, like Jeff was saying earlier, hit after hit after hit, at least in terms of good news, okay? Minus the little faux pas back in January with the Xbox Live business, but they're crushing the spotlight. So they're making it increasingly difficult for Sony to stay quiet when the mind share is sliding towards the opposite end of the spectrum. You see what I'm saying? So instead of them just having the spotlight, now they're taking the mind share with them. So how long can Sony stay quiet? So they know that Sony's got to drop something. They're in a tough spot right now. And that's where Microsoft, again, I'm going to reiterate this back again with the third party. They've got to hit with third party. I think that what Pong Soul said, the stealth drop with Ascent, I think that's a pretty solid, thought. Okay. Battlefield 6, that's the hill I'm dying on. Okay. I still think Battlefield 6 is coming day one. Okay. That's going to be a big announcement. Yeah,
we're actually gonna that's actually the follow-up topic.
Oh, sorry.
We're gonna segue into Xbox Game Pass. And
can I add one point there? Another one is if they can secure the Uplay deal, right?
Yes, that's right. I forgot all about that. The Uplay deal is
another place you add.
I think actually that's a done deal. But we'll get more into that in the next topic because I want to get Jeff's opinion. But before we get to Jeff, gotta get Clowns. Clowns, for you, Phil Spencer. You've talked to Phil on a regular basis. What do you think he is thinking right now on how important? I mean, obviously he understands how important this E3 is. It's the first big E3 with the console out in the wild, right? It's running. It's doing all these amazing things. What are you expecting them to bring to the show?
I gotta say, I am hoping for some stuff that we haven't seen before, to be honest with you. Maybe some secret games that the teams have been working on, some teasers, because they did buy a lot of studios. And
they have 35 teams working on games.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of talent there. There's a lot of stuff being worked on. So I'd like to see some teasers of that. And then, of course, what Grubb and Mag and Everborn alluded to as well. I mean, I'd like to see some Forza stuff. I'd like to see more Halo. Honestly, as a joke, I think they should put Craig the Brute in there. I think that would be really cool.
I said they should actually make him have a storyline, like a legit storyline that he's the first Brute to join the Marines. Because he wants to get revenge on Atriox, who killed his family. Like making it a revenge story.
I would pay $70 for that.
I would pay $70 for that. In fact, I would buy the collector's edition with a Craig the Brute statue.
Yes, I think they should play into that. It's fun for the fans when they do stuff like that.
You know what? It's funny you say that, Clowns, because they were wearing those T-shirts around the office. They were all wearing the Craig T-shirts.
Ooh,
yeah.
Maybe that is. Jeff, did you get any Craig the Brute stuff, merchandise in that you could talk to us about? Anything?
Nothing's hiding behind the camera or anything. Not yet. No. If it does happen, I'll make sure I'll be back there so everyone can see it. No
nice.
Worries.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent.
And I know that Fable is a little further away. I don't want to get myself too excited. However, I love Fable.
Oh, right? Me too.
Like, if I was to ever get a tattoo of any video game, it would be Fable. That's how much I love it. I would like to see just a little tease of Fable, even if it's small, right? Just a small little thing. That would get me so excited. I'd probably run up and down the street screaming Fable for like the next week. Like, I love that game.
Nice.
So I mean, other than that, I don't really think there's much for me. Jeff, I do have a question for you in the Starfield, right? I know that you said that you think we might see some of that. Do you think that is going to go multiplayer, or you think that's going to be exclusive?
I think it's going to be exclusive, but I don't know for sure one way or the other. That's something I haven't heard a definitive answer on. I imagine that we will hear about that at E3. But yeah, I don't know, so I couldn't answer that for you.
Okay, sounds like I might ran on a bet then. Other than that, though, I just want Xbox to come out with a lot of positive energy. Like, I want them to be excited about this. I want them to get the fans hyped up about this. I want them to come out there and be like, we got games. We got, Xbox Cloud is what they're calling it now. We got Xbox Ultimate Game Pass. I want them to show all this stuff off and be proud about it, and then show just trailers of games coming into Game Pass. Tell us a little bit more what's coming into Game Pass. Make it exciting for us. Make new subscribers want to sign up. It just wow us, man.
Yeah.
Microsoft, you could do this. You could wow us. That's all I need from you guys. And maybe Phil comes out on a robotic, thing or something. Just be like, I'm Phil and I've got you excited. Something like that.
Well, I mean, listen, I don't know if he's going to come out in maybe a mech suit, kind of like Titanfall, which maybe we get a Titanfall 3, because I've been asking. You can see the gameplay, folks. I'm a Titanfall nut. I've been a fan. I've been so disappointed that we haven't gotten a Titanfall 3. I know that they just dropped the news today with the with the new character that's supposed to be the daughter of one of the pilots. It's okay. I don't play Apex Legends. It's not my bag. I really want Titanfall 3. I don't know if we're going to get it, but Jeff, I got to go back to you, and we're going to move on to the next topic. See, I want to segue into Game Pass because Game Pass, as we already know, is confirmed to be one of the biggest and most important aspects of what Microsoft is doing. We understand that they want to get to the 2 or 3 billion gamers, and they want to do that with Game Pass. And they're doing that in a way, the news dropped today, and again, we're going to talk about it on tomorrow's Xbox Factor podcast, about how through the browser, you're now going to be able to have, Project X Cloud on your iPhone, and of course on your PC. And it's a big deal. It's a big deal because it's going to get more and more gamers to potentially invest into Xbox Game Pass, even if they don't own the console. But Jeff, listen, you saw in the thumbnail, they are, and I say they, Phil, is looking to make you, literally force you to try out Xbox Game Pass, because the offerings become so good that you just can no longer ignore it. Even if you are not an Xbox owner, you're going to want to be. Resident Evil Village, we have heard rumors and rumblings, nothing confirmed, about that dropping into Xbox Game Pass, and it would be pretty unbelievable considering that Sony has the marketing rights. But I don't think that the marketing rights would be violated if they made a deal to have that game drop day and date in Xbox Game Pass. I don't know. I don't know the specifics. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but my question to you is, we have heard Madden day and date. We've heard FIFA made day and date. We've heard Battlefield 6 potentially day and date. These are all big EA games. Have you heard anything else that could potentially, in regards to big third-party deals, be coming to Xbox Game Pass?
I've heard those ones just thrown around, nothing confirmed yet. But I mean, I think clearly Xbox, that team over there, is having a lot of these conversations. I think likely the reason we're hearing about something like Resident Evil Village is because someone took a meeting and someone said, yeah, we'll hear you out, Phil. How much would you want to pay to make this happen? Is this viable for us? I bet those conversations have definitely happened. How far they've gone, that's going to be the question for us. That's what's relevant to us.
Right.
To me, the one that does make the most sense is Battlefield, because Battlefield is it is going to launch in a very different world than Battlefield 5 launched in, and Battlefield 5 had its own issues. But it's an especially different world compared to Battlefield 1. when Battlefield 1 came out, there was no Fortnite. There was, the free to play shooter market was completely different. It wasn't really that big on console. And Battlefield 6 is going to try to launch in that environment and charge an upfront price and hopefully try to survive as a multiplayer game, and maybe have a paid battle royale again. Or are they going to have a free to play battle royale, or could they have a paid battle royale? It's part of the package, but get a lot of people into it by putting it into Game Pass. To me, that makes a lot of sense. It's we know EA and Microsoft are close. They've made similar deals in the past. I think that they could make that happen, and it would make sense for everybody involved. Now, as far as anything beyond those games, I think we should keep our ears open. I think it's likely that Phil will continue to have these conversations through the end of the year, and they make sense, right? This is what he should be doing. This is such a good use of Microsoft's money. It is exciting to get these kinds of games in Game Pass on day one. Way more exciting than it is to hear that a company locked down a third-party exclusive, and just all that means is they kept it off another platform, and that doesn't mean a lot to you because you still have to buy it. And so, spending your money to save me money, Microsoft, is something I love to hear about. Yeah, do that. Keep doing that. That is fantastic. That's going to continue to build on this momentum. And I think we've seen with Outriders that this is just going to, every company's gonna be like, wait, okay, so you put Outriders in Game Pass, and not only did it seem to get a lot of players through Game Pass, it was the number 3 top selling game of the month on the MPD in the United States. It was the number 3 best-selling PlayStation game of the month, but it was also the number 3 best-selling Xbox platform game of the month. So as far as we could tell, it really, just looking at what we know in the public without having these specific numbers, the detrimental effects of putting it in Game Pass in terms of sales just did not manifest. And if anything, it seems like it really, really, really helped the game. And everyone's going to be looking at that and say the experiment's working. It's working better than anyone thought. And the reservations that companies like Capcom, if Capcom comes and says, okay, that number's pretty good, but it's not quite where we need it because we think we're going to lose out on a lot of sales, he's going to be able to point to Outriders and say, I don't think that's the case. I think you're going
Jeff,
get even more sales.
To add to your point, Jeff, it was number 6 on Steam, and it wasn't available on PC, Xbox Game Pass. That's saying something.
Yes, it's a huge success, and I think Game Pass is part of that story there. It gets part of the credit for sure. I think he's really going to be able to build on these deals and accelerate these deals going forward to the point where, some of the games that maybe we're hearing about, maybe those deals get closed because of something like Outriders doing so well. I'm more confident than ever that we're going to get more of these before the end of the year.
You know what I'm going to be interesting to see, Jeff? Obviously, this is the first time that MLB The Show is available on an Xbox console. You've seen people in the community who had bought the Jackie Robinson edition, which allowed them to play early, that are playing on Xbox, that are very excited to show and share that with everyone. And I think that what you're talking about makes a lot of sense, because if they could somehow outduel the PlayStation community, like say for instance, because it's an Xbox Game Pass, 5 million downloads, 6 million downloads come, and then half of those become sales. And obviously, the PlayStation community, especially the PlayStation 5 community, has to spend $76.11 here in the state and that I'm in. I'm in New York. If they want that game, could it potentially show a company like Capcom, wait a second, more people bought the version that was available, of course, on Xbox Game Pass than the version that was available on the PlayStation? Maybe we should do a deal here.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely possible. There are certain games that, like, even when they go back to, like, Call of Duty was a good one, where it's like Microsoft stopped doing the Call of Duty deal, the marketing deal, and yet Call of Duty typically sold. There was a higher attach rate on Xbox anyhow, and the sales were pretty close, even though there were more PlayStation 4s out in the world. There's just a certain audience on Xbox that was showing up for those games no matter what. I think that if MLB The Show doesn't have that same effect when it goes to Xbox, if it's not like having that same effect on PlayStation, where PlayStation games is just where you play baseball games, and instead it just immediately swaps or becomes like neck and neck, or more likely, like, there's just going to be way more people playing on Xbox because of Game Pass. That's going to make people like open up their eyes, especially any game with microtransactions.
Yes.
Any game with post purchase, in game purchases that you can make. They're going to look at this and be like, okay, so MLB The Show, yeah, it was like it's $70 on PlayStation, but then you got to rely on that audience to show up and spend money. Now it's $70 on Xbox, but it's also in Game Pass, and everyone in the Game Pass that's playing that game is potentially buying microtransactions.
Yep.
That's going to have a huge effect. And that's why something like Battlefield 6, that's why I looked at that and be like, that makes sense. That could work there for them. I want to wait and see. I'm not going to like assume that MLB The Show is going to blow us away on Xbox in terms of performance. I think it's quite possible. But we'll know in about a month's time when we get those MPD numbers, what it looked like. And if it's strong, I think, again, it's just going to be more evidence for the PowerPoint presentation Phil gives when he's trying to talk these companies into going with Game Pass. And to me, this is like, they're so far ahead of where I thought they would be with Game Pass at this point. These kinds of deals, I thought they would happen eventually. I just thought they would take a long time to convince most companies to put a game of the size of Outriders on there. And the fact that they're already at this point where we are talking about games like maybe Resident Evil or Battlefield 6, it shows me that we're already past the point where there could be a competitor to Game Pass, really. Some companies could try to shift, and Sony could try to shift, say, okay, we really have to do this thing, and we have to do it exactly like them. That would be really expensive and really hard for Sony, even Sony at this point. And to match these deals, and then to also have enough first party games to support it, that sort of thing, be really expensive. So I think if we're already past that point, if we are mostly playing games through a subscription service in 10 years, Microsoft has really laid the groundwork to guarantee that service is almost certainly going to be Game Pass. And I think that's why everything they're doing, they feel is worth it, because they can see that future and they expect it to pay dividends for them.
Nice. Now, one last question before I move on to the other panel members. In your professional opinion, because obviously you are one of the journalists that I turn to for news, has Xbox Game Pass become the new exclusive?
Yeah, you mean in terms of like having a big exclusive, like
yes.
ready to? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like if you release this on both platforms and it's available for $70 $70+ on PlayStation, but your Xbox Game Pass exclusive, it really has become the killer app, so to speak.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think that you can't overestimate the power that saving money has on people, or at least the way they think about like spending money. Spending a lot of money on one game that you're not sure if you're going to love is tough, and we've grown accustomed to it, and a lot of people are so accustomed to it, and they spent so much money on their games that they have this sort of relationship where they don't want to give it up, and I don't blame them. You have your library, you want to keep building your physical library. That's fine. But for a lot of people, like if you could say like you're going to be able to try a lot of different stuff that you don't even know if you like yet, and it's just going to be that same flat fee every month. It is such a mental break for people where it's like, okay, this is a relief almost that I can play games this way and not feel left out, and the FOMO starts going away. Paying $15 a month to get rid of the FOMO alone is worth it. Let alone getting all these big games that might come in it. It is a very powerful force. I mean, we know this, right? We look around, like we see what happens with music, Spotify. We see what happens with movies, with Netflix. This is inevitable. It's going to happen with games eventually, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like, oh, all the people that are buying games right now are going to stop buying games. That's likely not going to happen. It is about the next generation, people coming up right now, and a new audience that is out there that is wants to be in more games, wants to be playing more games, but could never quite afford it. Those people are going to come in and sort of grow the business, and that's the goal for Microsoft. Absolutely.
Nice. Well, thanks again. Strong opinions. Pong So, let's get your opinion on this. How important is this Game Pass at E3, and what does Microsoft need to bring to the table to keep everyone, keep that conversation going? Because it has been everything that we've been talking about for what seems like months. Almost the entire 21 campaign has been about Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah, so to keep the momentum going, I've got a theory as far as Game Pass goes that we're approaching the point. I don't know when it's going to exactly happen, but we're getting closer and closer to the point where, games, they are no longer and I've said this so many times, but I feel like I'm repeating myself, but this is a different show. So we're going to get to the point where it's a bigger risk for developers and publishers to not put their games on Game Pass than it is to put them in Game Pass. And we're starting to see that shift. So I believe that obviously what we've seen with Outriders, is just the beginning, and obviously MLB as well, is just the beginning to what their future plans are. Like Jeff was just alluding to, they obviously see the future, and they believe that, Game Pass is now their platform. So they believe that that future is going to happen where we are mostly playing games digitally, right? And that shift started a long time ago, but Game Pass is definitely a vehicle that is speeding that up faster and faster. And obviously the pandemic on top of it also helped that with more people being at home and looking to entertainment more and more, and game industry exploding, this past year. I think what Microsoft does try to convince, more and more developers about the benefits. They can show numbers now. Now they have proof, and we'll have another set of numbers once MLB launches. And I think they're just going to provide those numbers to all these developers. I think these developers and publishers are seeing the results themselves with their own eyes. So you're going to see them start to knock on the door more than Phil knocking on their doors, right? And I think, I can't see a Resident Evil game.
Oh, I can.
I know you can, and I would love to see it, but I'm saying day and date. I'm not saying down the road. I just can't see it day and date because I'm pretty sure they're probably going to have some just the way Resident Evil's been lately, very, very strong, pre-sale numbers. And I think that they're going to be confident that they can get those upfront sales without a Game Pass, but, and this is where it starts to come into play.
Drop the bag of money off. Do it, Phil.
Right. Drop the bag of money off, or from Capcom point of view, or any other developer who has a big AAA game like this that they know is going to be successful out the gate. How short a window does it become before they see those initial sales start to dip off? And they know they've gotten most of their upfront money that they're going to get, because let's be real. Most people buy the brand new games out of that fear of FOMO, just like Jeff was talking about, upfront right away within the first 30 to 60 days. So how close does that window get where, the publishers decide, okay, we've made as much money as we're going to, or we've made a significant chunk of money. Now let's go talk to Microsoft about getting into Game Pass, getting it in front of, 20 million eyes, depending, plus, minus how many have already purchased that game, but let's get it in there. Let's let people try it. And we've already seen that despite what people want to say about Game Pass, people do buy games even though they're in Game Pass. We saw it with Outriders. We're going to see it with MLB. So that window, I think, becomes tighter and tighter and smaller as we go forward, and as more and more of these games show and prove exactly what Microsoft has said all along, what Phil and his team have envisioned all along. I think a more interesting game to think about that's it's very close actually, is a game like Hood, Outlaws and Legends. Okay, this game is one of those games that nobody's remembering. It comes out May 10th. It is a high production value game. If you go look at the videos, it is beautiful, and it looks like a very cool concept. But you need 2 teams of 4 people constantly in this game. Now, this game's going to get lost in the shuffle in May because we have so many different games dropping. So if that game right there would be perfect for Game Pass. And I think that's going to take the route of Outriders and maybe show up in Game Pass if their pre-sale numbers are showing that they're not going to have a big user base, which this is going to need to survive. That's the type of games that I see dropping day and date, or these quick deals where all of a sudden out of the blue they announce it, kind of like Outriders. Oh, by the way, it's coming into Game Pass. I think that's what we're going to see going forward. And I do think that Battlefield 6 does have a great opportunity just because of the relationship with EA. And also because, like we've already talked about, that window with a Call of Duty, with a Halo, the competition for Battlefield, they have an opportunity this year. And we talked about this, Boom, on previous shows, with Call of Duty going back seemingly. And again,
Yeah.
those are
Big
rumors,
mistake.
but yeah, big mistake going back to the World War II gameplay, which a lot of people are kind of tired of. And I've been reading the comments, and people are out there going, well, I'm going to be checking out Battlefield this year because Battlefield is coming back to the modern age. And everybody's been waiting for Battlefield to do this. It's been a long time. But I think with the competition that's going to be there when Battlefield launches, it would make the most sense to have it in Game Pass. By that point, when that launches, you're probably talking about, they could be approaching 30 million plus people in Game Pass, depending on how everything plays out for the rest of the year. That would be a huge boon to EA and DICE to have Battlefield in front of that many people out the gate. So I do think that one definitely has some legs, and I think we could see that rumor turn into a reality down the road. But overall, I just think we're seeing the beginnings. I think Phil and his team are well aware that they have a lot of holes that they've got to fill until these first party studios are ready and they're firing on all cylinders, and you've got that cadence of games that they want, one a quarter, one every 3 months. I think they're going to continue to make these types of deals. And then, like Jeff said, when we get to that point, the rest of the industry is going to kind of fall into place once they realize that Game Pass is the de facto service moving forward. And there's not going to be any question that if you want a big audience for your game right away, or maybe after 60 days of initial sales, Game Pass is where you need to go, and it's got proven results. And again, who doesn't win in this scenario? Nobody. It's the perfect setup. It's the perfect system. Devs, publishers, customers, Microsoft, Xbox, everybody is winning in this deal. And that is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're onto something there. Everyone, let's grab your opinion on this. Obviously, we've seen them make some big strides, but I think that, just seeing the lead up to where we are, right? It started small with Octopath Traveler. By the way, a $60 game still on Nintendo Switch. And then, of course, they followed up with Outriders. Number 3 selling on the PlayStation, number 3 selling on the Xbox, number 6 selling on Steam. They're making their money back. I think it's doing better than they could even have imagined. Now the show, MLB The Show, is going to be a big deal. I think the numbers for Xbox are going to seriously potentially double what PlayStation is doing, simply because of the value proposition of one to the other. Where do you see Xbox Game Pass, and what big announcements do you see happening at E3?
Well, firstly, I want to say I downloaded MLB The Show out of spite. I have no intention of playing it. I just wanted to add to the number of the install base. But so there's that. And I think everybody's been spot on, like, so far. It is going to be a crowded market this holiday when Battlefield releases. And another thing we all have, and I was talking about this last week, we all have to pay attention to the organic marketing that you get, or free marketing that you get, just by having an announcement of a big game in Game Pass like that, right? Like, everyone will be talking about it. There will be a bunch of think piece articles written about it. Everyone will be sharing it and playing it day one. Because this is such a new thing, everyone is surprised by these huge deals. And the more subscribers that come onto Game Pass, and the bigger numbers they see things like Octopath Traveler and Outriders and MLB The Show do, the bigger chances you'll get. And I like that Pong brought up Hood, because that is another sort of Outriders style case. Like, you're not a known quantity, you're new, you are noteworthy, and the best way to not get lost in the shuffle is to be the Game Pass sort of game of the month, right? Because I think we're going to have deals like this every month that Microsoft or Bethesda first party title is not launching. I think there will be a noteworthy big game launch into Game Pass. I think that's what we're building towards, and these things sort of snowball, right? So Outriders today, maybe Hood tomorrow, and boom. Listen. I know a lot of people think that the Capcom Village thing is like far-fetched. I don't think it's gonna happen, but when you said it, I just thought of Phil in that meeting saying, and the Capcom executive is like, "Well, how much are you gonna give us for Resident Evil?" And then Phil says, "I don't think you understand what this is. I want the whole thing." Right? Like, and I'm talking acquisition talk. I'm talking about, but really, really, I think that I think we could see something like again, this is if Sony hasn't locked it down. I think we could see a Final Fantasy, and I think that will be huge. And I think Battlefield is a real thing. As I mentioned before, I think the Ubisoft deal is another huge possibility, right? And if they can get that Wukong game, the one that everyone was talking
dude,
about,
yep,
right?
that looks fantastic.
So to me, any game that wows people, that there's a sort of if factor, because I don't see them getting something like a Call of Duty or a Grand Theft Auto, right? I think Battlefield is a special case, but I think these newer games that are unknown quantities, I think this is your best chance to get noticed, right? And because they can't rely on previous sales to know what a game is going to do and what they're losing, right? So if you're making an $80 million game and you're launching it in this new market, like, it's very hard to take that risk. And what a Game Pass deal does is takes away some of that risk or all of it, right?
Well, depending on what bag of money and how much of that money is.
Right. And just one other point to your point, Boom, about it being the new exclusive. I think it is. I think that Microsoft gets the same valor or sort of mind share of a multi-plat game going into Game Pass day and date that Sony would get for a third-party timed exclusive.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
Just in terms of talking about it. And so a game will be able to get its sales from Steam and PlayStation and Xbox, for that matter, right? We've seen that with Outriders. A game will be able to get all their sales, but in people's minds, it will seem as though it's an Xbox exclusive. That's what Outriders feels like, even though you can buy it everywhere. And the diabolical thing here is, the more things like MLB The Show and Outriders happen, this begins to this sort of these seeds of discontent begin to grow. Right? People start to realize, why do I keep seeing these high profile games? Why do I keep paying $60 and $70 for them on the PlayStation, but on the Xbox, it's included in the subscription that everyone is talking about, right? And this is the key. If Microsoft is going to build Game Pass to a sustainable business, they need something every month to keep people subscribed to the service. Or I'll just wait till Halo comes out, then subscribe, and then get rid of it. But that's not what they're building, right? So I think we'll have announcements like Outriders, potentially Battlefield. Every month you're going to get a big announcement. And again, I don't want to keep coming back to Final Fantasy, but I think if it's happening, we didn't hear about it because April was already spoken for.
Yes.
You speak about the other things, and you do your Monday morning news dump like they've been doing.
Yep.
Every Monday has been great for primetime gaming, because we go live Monday night. Microsoft always has something for us Monday morning. So I think, May or June, whatever they have in the clip, that's when you hear it. But this is the beginning. This is the canary in the coal mine, and things are going to get big. I just want to add one more point that I wanted to say earlier when Mag was talking. I think Sony is fine. I think they found a sort of winning formula to tide them over, which is let's take our big games from the PS4 generation, reskin them a little bit, and do a story up to it, date to it, and package it as a new game. That is what Miles Morales did, and we saw that is doing amazing numbers, right? And
yeah, that still was a new game, though. Yeah, sure, it was a side story, but
but it is a new game. What I'm saying is, Miles Morales obviously did not have the same production budget as Spider-Man 2018 because they were able to reuse a lot of assets and upgrade textures and things like that. And so as if they're doing another story game based on their old engines, which is what I think Ragnarok and Forbidden West will be, I think that allows them to have big name titles while to release, to get mind share while they work on the newer technology stuff that will come out later in the generation when the PS5 has sold more units. So I think Sony's fine, but I do think that Xbox is changing the conversation into a place where I don't know if Sony will be able to compete in the future, but for the time being, I think that's a very smart strategy that Dance Moves Ryan is playing at. So I don't want to take anything away from them yet. So anyway, that was it. That was my point.
But let's get Mag in, and then Jeff, I don't know how much time you got. I do have one more question for you regarding this rumor. Well, not so much the rumored one particular game. As soon as I get done with Mag, I want to just grab your opinion on exactly what these third-party deals that you've been maybe you might have heard of. But Mag, let's get your opinion on this with the Game Pass situation. I think Resident Evil gets dropped. I think the way it happens is just the same way MLB was announced by Phil Spencer himself. I think what you get is you know that gif of Vince McMahon walking down the ring, walking towards the ring, in his suit with his, moving his arms. That's Phil Spencer right now. And I think he knows that. And I think that we do get something like, I think that even though Sony, and again, everyone says Phil's a nice guy. Phil's a gentleman. He's probably the best guy in the industry, but he's also a businessman. He also has an ideology that he wants to see Xbox win this generation. How kicking the balls is this? If and think about this, and obviously Jeff, jump in if you want to pull on the leash here for a second. Just imagine this for a second. Sony spent a significant amount of coin to get Resident Evil Village into to have the marketing rights for that, and they've been doing a good job. You were able to play it the other day, which I did. It's amazing, but you couldn't play that anywhere else but on PlayStation. But I don't think there's anywhere in the contract that suggests that Microsoft couldn't go over to Capcom and say, okay, listen, we're going to give you this big bag of money because we can, but we don't care about exclusivity. Don't worry about it. We just want it in Game Pass day and date. And who knows? Because again, not everyone plays Resident Evil. I play Resident Evil. It's my favorite franchise in gaming, but not everyone thinks that way. It would be pretty epic and it would really turn the conversation to once again be in Microsoft's point of view that, hey, yeah, it's coming out on a PlayStation, but why does anyone care? Because it's in Game Pass day and date. What are your thoughts on that, Mag?
Well, the Resident Evil Village situation, if they're going to do anything, if they're going to make a move, they better make it soon. And, assuming that this even happens, if they don't make that move soon, you're going to cause a lot of confusion, a lot of problems. And the reason for, yes, people will forgive them. They'll be like, you know what? Okay, it's in Game Pass. But at the same time, a lot of people are pre-ordering now. Okay, so you've got the game. They already had the showcase. I know it was a PlayStation showcase, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it just means that the demos were on the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5. I played it on the PlayStation 5 same night as you did, Boom. So, and I thought it was excellent, except those werewolves with those Michael Jackson moves. I'm taking shots at their head and they do like the little dodge move. And I'm like shooting at air. But anyways, besides that, the game is great. People are going to be pre-ordering it right now. Okay. And what's going to happen? They're going to go, God damn it. Why didn't you guys tell us sooner? And like, now I got to go back in there and cancel my pre-order, whatever else, right? So they're gonna have to make the move very soon. I think if they're gonna make the move, they got to do it at the end of this week or latest next Monday, because after that, it's like not even 2 weeks, is it not? I think it's like it was 3 weeks on Thursday or last Friday, excuse me. Okay, so by next week it'll be 2 weeks.
Yeah,
there it is. Can you believe it? It's May. It's going to be May soon. So there it is. Anyway, the point is that they'll have to do that. Now, do I think it's going to happen? Did anybody think that MLB The Show was going to happen? No. I can't think of a single person who said, I think MLB The Show is going on.
Actually, King David is the only one that said that.
Did he say it?
He actually did say that.
God, he is a prophet. I
he
knew
is the prophet. That is correct.
Well, then I'll give him the credit then, because I didn't remember him saying that, but I got to tell you, I didn't hear anybody else saying it. So the fact that there's a possibility, anything is on the table now. That's the thing. Like I said, that's why they call it the Thanos snap. I call it the Thanos snap because now that that's happened, anything can happen. Okay, they could get Resident Evil in there. They can get whatever other game is coming in there. Now, however, there's something else I wanted to say, and you guys were talking about it with that game with Hood and things like that. The Game Pass effect, it's a very powerful one, at least even for people like me who generally used to buy everything. But the Game Pass effect has actually changed my entire purchasing style now. And like I said, it can't be the only one. Like, or it can even bring to light games that I never even would have put money down on, because you've got to remember, up until this point, I'm paying full price for these games, okay, all of them, and usually day one, right? I don't wait for sales. What am I going to do? Like, wait a year so it can go down like $30? I'm not going to wait a year. I want to play the game today, right? So, but then I find games like Plague Tale, for example. Okay, you guys mentioned
what a great game, dude.
I loved that game, but I never ever would have touched that game unless it was in Game Pass. And it's not because it wasn't good or I didn't think it was going to be good. It would have been just one of those games that slips through the cracks. You wouldn't even give it a second's attention. But by putting it in Game Pass, you've exposed it to millions of people, myself, present company included, who ended up loving that. So now when I started looking, I go, wow, that was an incredible game. That was not your AAA Call of Duty, Battlefield, whatever, Witcher kind of game, okay? But it was a magnificent game with a great story. I love the story, and I love the gameplay. I thought the gameplay loop was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. Now, that being said, that's what it does. So now what it does is that now I keep looking not just for the AAA bangers, okay, on Game Pass. I start looking for those hidden gems. I start looking for those other games, looking for that same sort of experience of saying like, wow, that was so good. Let me see what these other companies, these up-and-coming companies that one day might become Naughty Dog, or might become, whatever, Ninja Theory or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like they could become those things. So you could see the potential in these smaller games, and then you really enjoy those experiences. Another great one is Little Nightmares. Little Nightmares, what a fantastic game. If you guys haven't played either one or two, you are missing out.
Yeah.
Right? Those are fantastic games. And, of course, Little Nightmares is on Game Pass, if I'm not mistaken, or it was given away with Games with Gold. Either way. The number one thing I want to talk about, this is why I've been preaching for weeks. Guys, I know you're going to be so sick of me saying it, okay? But I'm sorry, it's the truth. It is price, and price.
Yes.
And when it comes down to everything, it's got to come down to price. Jeff, you weren't here last week to hear me screaming about price, but I got to tell you something, okay? I'm here in Toronto, Canada. And let me tell you something, that MLB The Show, the standard edition, okay? I know guys groan because I've been talking about it for weeks, is $105 here in Canada. And the Jackie Robinson edition is $160 here in Canada.
Yep. Yikes.
I'm not the only Canadian. I'm not the only, there's
you're the
not
loudest
one guy
Canadian, but you're not the only.
I'm definitely up there. There's a lot of Australians out there. There's a lot of Europeans out there who are all gamers. Okay. And they're paying the same price that I'm paying. Okay. They're going to start looking, like I said before, they're going to start looking from left to right and go 105 Game Pass. Right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
Jeff brought up the music situation. Okay, music, big thing. Okay, if I wanted to get the Led Zeppelin discography or like NWA's greatest hits of all time or whatever, okay, at $150 a pop for a box set, or am I going to pay $10 and listen to that entire thing, okay, on Spotify as well as millions of other songs? What?
I mean, it's easy to say. It's an easy answer. Yeah.
Right. So the thing is, yes, the quality of games are important. However, I think that what you need to do is it has to be the mainstream. Okay, it has to be mainstream games that people know and love. If you like, even Outriders, I know a lot of guys that work for me, okay, And I've been talking about Outriders for about 2 weeks now. I'm like, hey guys, you guys download Outriders? They're like, huh? They all have Series X, and they have no idea what Outriders is, what Outriders was. They didn't even know it was in Game Pass.
Wow.
But if I told them that Battlefield 6 was going to Game Pass, they'd all lose their minds because
I
they
agree.
know the title. You know what I'm saying? So what they need to do is they need to chase, which they're already doing. They're already doing that. They got to chase that casual market, or they've got to chase the more commercial names to get people in there. And then on top of that, bolster Game Pass with these other great gems for the other hardcore, like us here on the panel, the people in the chat, the people going to listen to the replay. Okay, those are the other gems that we're going to go after, and we're going to appreciate those games more. And then and the engagement is going to go up, and we're going to keep engaging month after month after month. And on top of that, with those big games, like I said, like your Battlefield 6s, maybe your Resident Evils, God willing, okay? Those are the games that you draw in the new people. And then, of course, on top of it, you make guys like us happy. I mean, let's face it, man. I got a house. I got kids. I got cars. I got stuff to pay for. I got all kinds of stuff going on over here. You think I want to pay $100 a game? Not a chance.
Not.
I got way bigger things to worry about and pay for. I'm not worried about. I don't want to spend $100 a game. But you know what I do is at the end of this year, for example, I look at my yearly gaming budget as like, because you know how it is, right, guys? Like the September to December. Okay, that's when you just hand your wallet over and just go, here, take it all. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what happens, right? I mean, this year was a major drop because of the new consoles and everything else, and I got them all. And so, including Oculus, which was it. But by the way, great. Anybody hear that Resident Evil 4 is coming to Oculus? Just a little side note.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I'm excited for that. But anyways, the thing is, now my budget has now been cut in half. Because I'm not sitting there going, oh crap, I got to buy the new Call of Duty, I got to do the new Battlefield 6, I got to get the God of War, I've got to get Horizon, I got to get this, I got to get that, I got to buy Halo, I got to buy this. Well, now it's just like, okay, this year I'm going to maybe buy Call of Duty, and I'm going to maybe buy Horizon Forbidden West. Other than that, everything else may or may not be in Game Pass. And from what I understand and what I'm thinking, I think they will be. Halo's already in there. I just saved $100. Let's say Battlefield 6 goes in there. I just saved $100. If Resident Evil goes in there, I just saved $100. Guys, start doing the math here.
Yeah.
Okay, I could buy another console with the money I've saved. Okay, and like I said, once again, I am not the only person who's thinking like this. So, anyways, that's all I had to say about it. I just want to say that whatever they're doing, keep doing it. And as for Resident Evil, please, let's see if it gets in there.
Hey, Mag, just
Yes,
one thing. Your point is very you're very on point, and the thing that bothers me is not bothers me, but I think I find it funny.
Well, you know what? Do me a
Is
favor,
that-
brother. Hold that point because I don't know how much
Yep.
time Jeff has. I want to get Jeff's final opinion on this next topic because this one is a big one. Jeff, listen, this next character, Miles Dompierre of Windows Central. He's an amazing podcaster. I think you were on his Chatter Days show a couple of months ago.
2 weeks ago. Yeah.
And obviously, Miles, if you don't know, is going to be guest appearing May 3rd on this very show. Talking about hopefully a bunch of secret Xbox stuff. And he has his ear to the floor, and he talked about this particular week, this particular Chatter Days, which was an incredible episode. He talked about these AAA third-party deals that Microsoft is looking to publish. And we've heard that some of them are shocking, like really, like you could not believe this is actually happening, but it is. Have you heard anything? And more importantly, Jeff, what are your expectations on these deals? Because it does really harken back to how we opened up the show. Many of Microsoft's big AAA first party bombs might be held off until 2022, 2023. I think those two particular years are going to be massive for Microsoft first party. So a couple of these third party deals could go really well, especially if they're going to be exclusives. Now, by the thumbnail, I've been calling this, and I think you have as well. I think Randall Thor, good friend of the show, has been calling this. Splinter Cell was absent from the entire last generation. It's almost incredible to suggest it, but it actually happened. Could one of those AAA third-party bombs be a new Splinter Cell? I mean, obviously, Sam Fisher found his life originally exclusively on the OG Xbox. Now, yes, it eventually came to PlayStation, the PlayStation 2, but man, I remember that being the talk of the town. Look at this stealth action game. Who is this Sam Fisher, and is he better than Snake? I mean, that was the conversation we were having back in those days. What are your thoughts on these third party deals that Microsoft is going to publish?
Yeah, so I mean, this is about Xbox Global Publishing, which is like, yeah, they're basically what people used to call second party, which is never really a thing. But like, yeah, Microsoft publishes it as a first party game, but works with an external studio. And I think that like when people start talking about Splinter Cell, that's a tough one for this sort of deal because it's a much different world than when we first got a Splinter Cell. Back then, Ubisoft was big, but it wasn't like the company it is now. Now it's a massive company, and one of the reasons that Ubisoft wants to make games these days is you want to have a lot of content so that when you are licensing out content or like putting stuff on Uplay Plus or whatever to like beef up your deal with Microsoft, you can demand more money and stuff like that. And so giving up like the publishing rights to Microsoft for something like that might be tough. I would love to see it. I would love a new Splinter Cell game. But I think a global publishing deal is more likely along the lines of working with studios that are established, that are pretty big, have made big games, but somehow haven't either like fallen into like Embracer Group or whatever, or haven't fallen into one of these other acquisitions up to this point. And there's not a lot of those companies out there. But the companies that are probably are going to be lining up to try to do deals like this, because if Microsoft needs games and these companies want to work on them and get them out there, these companies will be lining up. Now, I know one of the ones, that one with the swirl, the cyclone one.
Yes.
I can't. I told Jez I wouldn't, because I'm like, Jez has way more information on it than I do. I know the premise, I know the code name, I know the studio. He knows way more. And when I kind of confirmed with him what it was, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to swoop this out from underneath you because you have this. This is your story. And also, it's the kind of thing where it's like there's not a lot of upside to me like spoiling this one, because it's not. I'll say it's probably not a familiar IP, right? So it's probably like you're not going to. I'm going to tell you the name of something. You're going to go like, oh, okay. You're going to want to see the game for yourself. And so nothing's really changed, because at this point you want to see the game for yourself. I tell you what it is. You're still going to want to see what the game is for yourself. There's not a lot of benefit to me like spoiling that stuff, but to me it sounds cool. And if that's the kind of stuff that they're going for, I'm excited for that. I'm like, I want to start seeing these things really, because Microsoft's got so much on the table, right? So much stuff that they're working on for the for the future. But this stuff needs to start manifesting in ways that where it's like it is big games that they are making and then also releasing. And if these global publishing deals enable them to do that sort of thing faster, that's wonderful. And hopefully they could show that not only are they like making deals, not only are they good at making like fun news and good news that makes you feel good about subscribing to Game Pass or whatever, but they could start delivering games that are of a very high quality, games that look like someone was sitting behind the shoulders of the devs and saying, listen, here's a little bit more money. Let's make sure we do this right. Let's make sure that we are thinking that these could be high 80, low 90 Metacritic games. Like, we believe in you. Let's make this happen. We'll provide that guidance and we'll stand behind you and support you in doing that. Microsoft needs to show that side of things, and these global publishing deals are where they can first really exhibit that. Beyond games just like Halo, where they're like clearly giving it an extra year to try to get to that point. They need to prove that they can do that, and this would be a good opportunity to do so.
Okay, my last question for you, because I don't know how much time you have. If you want to,
I could probably see it through to the end if we're going to end up in about a half an hour. I can.
By half an hour we'll be done. Where does Dying Light 2 fall into this conversation? This is something that we have heard so many times. We heard it was delayed because Microsoft was going to buy them. We heard it was delayed because Microsoft is putting it into Game Pass and they're going to publish it to make the game really stand out. Where does that particular game fall into this conversation?
Yeah, it seems like the kind of game that could end up like needing help, right? The kind of game where they had big ambitions when they started. They thought they could get it out there and really see it through themselves, and now they're in a situation where something's gone sideways and they need help, and it definitely feels like that's the situation that they're in. I would imagine that if the game isn't a complete disaster, Microsoft would want to be there to provide that sort of support in exchange for Game Pass deal. That makes a lot of sense to me. I haven't heard that one way or the other. It doesn't sound like they have. Doesn't sound like the company has like retreated from its strategy. Techland seems like they're going forward, but if things continue not to work out, or if the game needs to get delayed until like 2022, something they specifically said wouldn't happen, or like a few weeks ago, then they might at that point, like there's going to be probably a couple companies lining up and saying, okay, what is the state of this game? Would this be a good investment for us? And I think Microsoft would be right there. I mean, it seems like a really good fit to me, because Dying Light was like a long-term hit, and it did really well over time, and it kept finding new fans for years. And that to me seems like the perfect fit for Game Pass. So I would imagine Microsoft would feel very good about dropping the money for that one.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Well, thanks for that, Pong. So let's get your opinion on this. You know, looking at what Jeff had said before about the success that we're seeing with Outriders. Could you see the one of those AAA titles that are going to be published by Microsoft be like Dying Light 2? Where do you expect they're going to take this moving forward?
Well, you know, I love Speculation Town, as you and I always discuss, Boom. You and I spend a lot of time there. So
it's always sunny in 75 in Speculation Town.
That's right, with rainbows and unicorns everywhere. It's a beautiful, beautiful place to be. I had a theory about Jez's swirl, but now that Jeff has said that he knows it, I'll be respectful because I don't want to try to tempt it. So, you know, going forward, I think a lot of what could be coming down the pipe as far as the global publishing goes is I think it's going to be part of Phil's plan for the Eastern market, for the Japanese market. So I see some deals down the road. I think there at least one of these, maybe two of these could be from the Eastern part of the world, whether it's Japan, whether it's South Korea, or even China, which we've seen incredible displays of talent starting to develop over there. Yeah. And I think at this point with Phil and his team being focused on that area of the world, I don't think they're going to let those things slip through their fingers if they have any opportunity to come in and cut a deal and try to bring some of that new talent or some of those new IPs this way. You know, Dying Light 2 was one I was going to bring up. So funny enough that you mentioned that. Yeah, I mean, I think Dying Light 2 makes perfect sense, especially with the turmoil that game has unfortunately seen. That game would have capitalized. I mean, the popularity is still there. I'm back to playing Dying Light again in anticipation of hopefully seeing Dying Light 2, you know, this year. They kind of, obviously insinuated with their last little video that they were still trying to get that game out this year. I'm a little worried.
You're talking about when they were reading those horrible tweets from people.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, you know, I'm a little worried if they're going to try to push it out or rush it out. If the game isn't ready with all the stuff that we've kind of heard behind the scenes that may have been going on. But if it is ready and it is something that's going to come out this year, then I definitely think, as Jeff just said, it's the perfect game for Game Pass. So I could definitely see a deal there as well. But I just have this inkling that we are going to see some publishing deals, the global publishing side of things, reach out to that Eastern side and get some deals done, whether it's with an Itagaki, or something like that. I definitely think we could see some real, who knows? Sakaguchi, has come out and said he'd like to do another Blue Dragon.
Yes, he sure did. Yep.
So why not? If that's the case, that was a big deal for the 360 to get something like that. So why not go back to that? There's a solid fan base of Blue Dragon, even though it didn't sell well. And why not introduce it to a whole new base of people that may have never, or may have been too young back then, may have never played it. So that kind of expansion of those types of titles, I think, is where their focus, obviously, or part of their focus, I should say, is at, especially for Game Pass. Because again, we know that Game Pass has to have a diversity of content to reach all over the world, because they're not focused just on us, in the US. They're not just focused on Europe. They're focused all over the world. They want those 2-3 billion people playing video games. So we've got to continuously have fresh and all different styles of content coming in to Game Pass to get people interested in subscribing. So I think that's where we might see them hit next.
Nice. Strong points as always. Everborn Saga. Where does Microsoft go with global publishing? I mean, how big of a deal? Because I think with this Wukong, I think that's the Monkey King game. I said this from the beginning. It looks so like a Sony game. Like when I saw that, I said, "Wow, this screams Sony." But man, would it be pretty awesome if Phil swooped in and got that to be one of those games?
Well, I will take Pong's Blue Dragon and raise him a
I know where you're going.
Odyssey.
Yep, I knew you were going there, brother. I knew it. I want that more than anything. Trust me. Yes.
And then from there, we're not done yet, right? Cards on the table. I want a new Ninja Gaiden.
Yep.
Oh, yes. I've been saying that forever. Yes.
And while we're at it, I want to give a shout out to Isaiah T in the chat. He reminded me about Elden Ring, right? Can we get Elden Ring in there from
Jeff knows everything about Elden Ring.
He sure does. He sure does.
I got to go, guys. Have a good one.
These are the kind of things that I want to see. I mean, I don't ever see this happening unless like Microsoft acquires Crytek, but I'd like to see a new Rise, right? Like, could we get some of those sequels that we always wanted that everyone remembers, but for some reason they were never able to make them happen before? And obviously we all want new IPs, but to me, I think the things that we just talked about, whether they can find a way to do another Sam Fisher game, I don't think they can. But if they can do a new Blue Dragon or a Lost Odyssey or Ninja Gaiden, any of or Quantum Break or Rise 2, if they can do those, I think people will be just as happy as if they were new IPs. And that is like if I had my wish list, that is what I'd like to see. And I see in the chat somebody brought up another one. What if they could bring back Shinobi, work something out with Sega, right? So these are the things. Or Prince of Persia. Could we get one of those? I'm just naming off some of my favorite old things that seem to have been lost to history at this point. And the thing that I was saying before about value proposition was just that I see so many people defending the sort of full price $70 games. And I think most of that is just because that's what they're used to. And as human beings, we don't like change. And so we will defend things even though they are not in our favor, just because that's the way they always have been.
Yeah.
But
that's
all I got at the moment.
Fantastic
I might hop
points.
back in a minute. But.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Mag, let's get your opinion on this, brother, and then we're gonna get. We'll have one other quick question because we're coming towards the end of the show, and I obviously want to get Jeff on out of here. What are your thoughts on this? Where does Microsoft need to go with global publishing? Because it is an entity that many people forget exists because it's not a Ninja Theory, right? It's not a 343 or an Obsidian, right? It's just a part of their, that's part of the studios that make these deals. And these deals are as important as third-party deals. They are as important as first-party releases. Where do you see them going with this?
Well, I mean, you see that Phil's focus, well, at least a part of his focus anyway, he wants to Japan.
Yes.
Right? He wants to build up Japan, and at the same time, he's also very interested in Eastern Europe. You could see that there's a lot of partnerships, a lot of deals, a lot of Game Pass deals being dealt with the Eastern European companies, and on top of that, rumors about games that haven't even come out yet. Like, for example, you guys mentioned it about 10-15 minutes ago. We're talking about Dying Light. Okay, Dying Light 2. It seems to appear and disappear all the time. He's like Pokeroo from that kids show, you know? And like, you know, you're like, where's Pokeroo? And it's like, where's Dying Light 2? It's here one day, all of a sudden you don't hear from him for 8 months. Right? So like, you know what I'm saying? So it may be Dying Light 2. Another one, speaking of Dying Light, where's my Dead Island 2? I want my Dead Island 2, guys. I loved the first one. I mean, I know it was janky and ridiculous, but it was gory. It was open world zombie. That is my jam, folks. So like, I would like to see that. Everborn mentioned it. Rise 2. Okay, Jeff can't talk about it, but Elden Ring, there's another one, right? And then, you know, those are all games I'd like to see. And of course, on top of that, I think it was Pong Soul mentioned Tobunobu Itagaki.
Yes.
Okay, creator of Ninja Gaiden.
Let's give him the keys to the candy store and let him make a successor to Ninja Gaiden. Why not?
Even if he doesn't, Boom, let's just say, like, for argument's sake, he doesn't. He's just like, I'm done with that. I want to do something else. I got something else on my plate. I got something else in my mind. This is what's calling to me. You know, Phil's gonna entertain it. Matt Booty's gonna entertain it. They're gonna say, hey, what is it? Like, you know, give me the pitch. And if they like it, they'll be like, you know what, man? Here's the bag of money. Go nuts. You know, if you know what I'm saying, there's a big if they decide that it's something that's feasible. Great, fine. But there's that. Then, of course, there's the other one that I mentioned earlier. Of course, okay, you've got the Metal Gear situation. You got the Konami games that are rumored to be for sale. Okay,
Yes.
Again, I am no insider. Okay. At all, but I mean, I do hear things from other people, and then that's one thing that they were saying. They're talking about those Konami titles being sold off. Okay, so that's a possibility. I don't know. We don't know what the hell else is going to come up. So I those are my thoughts. Those are my options. The ones I'd like to see. But again, we got to see what's going to happen in the future. I mean, they're talking about more acquisitions. You know, maybe those thoughts of those third-party games might actually become first-party for all we know, right? Maybe that's why we haven't heard about them yet. Or maybe that's why they've sort of disappeared in the background until they decide what's about to go down. So anyways, I don't know. That's my wish list, and that's what I'd like to see going on, right? So, and then, of course, like I was saying about the Metal Gear situation, the Konami situation, you got the Kojima. Okay, you've got Kojima possibly in the wings.
Yes.
So what the hell is he going to do? I mean, I know that there's some people that like to say, well, you know, it'd be really awesome if he does Metal Gear 6. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, if that happened, that sounds more like fan fiction to me than reality. You know what I mean? Like you see like rumors online. I'm like, that sounds like something a fan would make up. It doesn't sound.
He
like
has been talking his horror game for quite some time.
Exactly, and I mean, didn't he pitch it to what's it called there? Google Stadia.
Yes, he did Stadia, and they closed.
Right. So he pitched it to Stadia, and it didn't work out because I think they dropped their funding on new IPs, right, on the games that they were going to be working on.
Yes.
So he had to walk away from that, and who else is he going to go to? You know, Sony was already done with him after Death Stranding. I'm not saying Death Stranding was bad, but it didn't obviously not perform the way that Sony wanted. Right? He's not going to go to Nintendo. So who's left? Uncle Phil, right? That's when you got to sheepishly knock on Uncle Phil's door and go like, hey, I got this idea. You know, and Phil's like, come on in, buddy. Here, take your shoes off. Put on some slippers. Come inside, have some tea and sit down. So, you know what I mean? So Kojima could be the next big thing. I still think that that's the biggest thing. You know what I'm saying? Whether this Elden Ring, I know that a lot of people are excited for it. I'm excited for it too. But that's a very hardcore thing. That's a very neat. I'm not going to lie to you guys. And, you know, come on, let's get serious. That's a very niche gaming, you know what I mean? A niche part of the gaming world, that whole Souls sort of thing. That's not for everybody, you know? And, you know, but Kojima could be for everybody, depending on what he does, right?
Well, especially because they're trying to march into Japan and be relevant, and you know, getting the creator from Ninja Gaiden, getting you know, Kojima.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, it would be a big deal.
That would be what I would do if I were going to go after. I would go after those two guys and put them in charge of their the Eastern Wing, okay, of their division, and then move from there. Give them some creative freedom to do what they want to do, but at the same time, maybe oversee some other projects too. Maybe even Kojima could look after, see what Tango's up to. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, okay? I'm just spitballing. I'm just saying. But these are just my thoughts. These are just personal wishes, opinions. But anyways, that's what I'd like to see. But anyways. Time will tell. That's all.
Yeah, no, we'll certainly. And Jeff, listen, before we get you out of here, before we get your outro, one last question. You know, if E3 2018 taught us anything, Phil enjoys getting on stage and saying that they have acquired X, Y, and Z. And oh, by the way, we made a new studio that's considered quadruple A called The Initiative. And we saw what they did in 2019. And they continued that. Now they did make the smaller, smaller announcements later on. Are you expecting any big acquisition announcements at this particular E3 from Microsoft specifically?
I mean, like in terms of developers, it's tough because there's not a lot of stuff out there anymore. Those companies have been acquired or aren't for sale, and so they're a little bit harder to make happen. I think that Discord is probably something that if they can close that, they'll announce that there is kind of like a quick side thing, but it wouldn't be quite the same thing as Bethesda, right? Because it's not a game studio. They want to have these conversations. They want to keep trying to make this stuff happen. They want to spend money. They really want to spend money. It's it's not just like inflation. It's not just low interest rates that are helping them. They're also taxes are probably going to go up. Like so, they're like, why don't let's just spend this money so we don't have it on our books. We don't have to pay taxes on these capital gains. Let's just instead pay money to employ a bunch of people, and there's a lot of tax breaks involved with that. So they're like looking at there's reasons to spend a lot of money right now if you're Microsoft. It's just hard because there's not a lot of options on the menu. I think if those Square Enix rumors, I think those come from the fact that like people are always talking about buying everybody, those conversations might happen. I just don't know how far they could go. I don't know how realistic it is. And I was like, when Bethesda was happening, I was being told there's a big thing you're not going to believe. And I guessed like 50 different things with this person that was telling me this. And I never got it right because I never guessed Bethesda. But I haven't heard any similar rumblings of that size recently. So my gut is telling me that they probably are having trouble making these deals happen. Even though I know that they really, really want to. They really want to get this money out of their bank account and put it into something that could just start generating revenue as they build up their gaming business. So the initiative is there. The desire is there. It's just a matter of the supply. The supply isn't there. So that's gonna, and also the demand is for these studios is really high right now. These companies that are maybe the target of acquisitions, they have a lot of suitors right now. It's not just Microsoft. It's a lot of different companies, Tencent and stuff like that. And video game companies are at their highest value right now. These companies are probably never going to be more higher valued than they are right now because of the pandemic and the way games are selling.
Yeah.
So the companies that want to sell have either already had those conversations or are holding out for even bigger paydays. And so the idea of stuff getting done in time for E3, anything that's massive seems unlikely. To me, what I would expect, I think maybe my guess would be, is instead of buying another studio in Japan, I know they have Tango now in Japan. I think I wouldn't be surprised if they spend the money to start a studio, to do what they did in Santa Monica. I think they could do something like that in Japan, in Tokyo, in Kyoto, or whatever, and try to build up their own presence there. I think that they would love to be the home for displaced Japanese developers that want to continue working on console and PC games rather than mobile games. And I think they could be that source for that resource for those people in Japan that would like to do that. I don't necessarily know if they think that that's going to pay dividends in the Japanese market. I think they know that ship has sailed, and they're never really going to be able to shift the way people play games there. They're going to be playing on phone, and that means maybe Game Pass, but more than likely it's going to mean gacha games. But the people that make games in Japan do make games that have global appeal. Those games do, and they would fit really well on Game Pass. And also Phil just really likes them. So I think with all those factors combined, I could see them saying, let's just spend a lot of money, start a studio in Japan, and do this ourselves instead of trying to acquire someone. And I think that could work.
Yeah, that certainly makes a lot of sense. Everborn, I'll get you. You want to jump in real quick?
Yeah. I just wanted to ask Jeff a question. So with all of these sort of Japanese either publisher or studio acquisition talks, I think something that gets left out is that I don't know how easy it would be to acquire one of those sort of larger publishers or bigger studios and make the games exclusives. And the reason I say that is that a lot of these Japanese publishers usually publish their games on PlayStation and not on Xbox because that market just really doesn't exist in that region. And so a lot of them have most of their development house are PlayStation developers. And is Microsoft going to go in, acquire a company, and then say, hey, all you expert PlayStation developers, we don't need you anymore, or you're going to have to work on Xbox? I don't know if that's the kind of relationship they want to get off on. So I wonder if they do a Japanese acquisition, if those Japanese titles maybe continue to be multi-plat, at least in that region. Just a thought.
No, I get where you're coming from. I don't necessarily think that would be the case for a couple of reasons. Right now, Sony has made it clear that they are not interested in Japan.
That's a great point. I was going to bring that up, Jeff. Good point.
Yeah, the PlayStation itself isn't like this great selling console anymore in Japan. People don't really buy PlayStations as much as they used to. For sure, it's nothing compared to the Switch, nothing compared to mobile phone. If you want to go, if this is all hypothetical, but if Phil goes in there and says, "Hey, we're acquiring you, and we want to make your games exclusive to anywhere where Game Pass is," and that includes mobile phones, and we have like built-in touch controls. People in Japan could just play your awesome console game on their phone. That is going to be a thing that really registers with Japanese developers, because they really view the gaming market through phones. And any studio that is in Japan right now that's not making mobile games, that is a conscious decision. That is them saying, we do not want to be making mobile games, because any of them could be going to do that and continuing to like get big investment and continue to make games, because there's a huge audience for that stuff. So they want to keep making console games. And if Microsoft says, we'll come in here, we'll enable you to continue to keep doing that, provide you a really easy way to get your games on phones as well, so that they could do really well in Japan, and ensure that you have a global audience of people that wanting to play it everywhere. I think most of them are going to end up just feeling kind of like loved and be like, oh, this feels nice. This feels like a home that we can like work within. And my guess is they won't feel too like raw about having to leave those PlayStation dev kits behind and having to switch over to the Xbox ones. I imagine they'll be willing to do that.
That makes perfect sense. Jeff, listen, it's been fantastic to have you on the show. I honestly cannot thank you enough. I've been a big fan of your work. Having to be able to say that I had you on one of my shows, it's a big deal for me. I hope that you enjoyed the heck out of yourself. But before I get to the super chats, I definitely want to get you out of here. Tell everyone where they could reach out to you, potentially ask you how to groom your hair as well as you've been doing, and what product you're using. But more importantly, tell them about what shows you got going on, because my God, some of the podcasts that you're doing are generating a lot of talk, and I love listening to them. And I think people would be here, that we had almost 600 people here tonight, would want to find out where they can listen to you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. This has been really great. I did have a lot of fun. I legit like talking about games, so this is just always fun for me. So thank you for the invitation. If you want to follow me, I'm on Twitter at Jeff Grubb. I tweet too much. Don't follow me. Don't do it. I think it's a bad idea.
No, hit the bell. I do. I have the bell hit. I love your tweets, Jeff. I love them.
It's too much, man. It's too much. I can't help myself. I'm ADHD. It all just comes right out. It's like exhaust fumes right onto Twitter. But whatever. But yeah, youtube.com/Jeffrey Grubb. I think it's the best way to get it. But I'm Jeff Grubb's Game Mess on YouTube. And I do try to do a Game Mess live show each week that I post the VOD of. I do that on Twitch. I post that on YouTube. I'll be doing that tomorrow morning. And then every Friday afternoonish, kind of maybe a little bit morning on the West Coast, we do the Games Beat Decides podcast. I do that with Mike Minotti, and we do that each week. And that's a lot of fun. We do that one on YouTube. So check that out. But yeah, I appreciate it. I put everything on Twitter, and then there's a link to my Discord in the Twitter if you want to like get all the nitty gritty stuff there as well.
Yeah, so, I have your Discord, I have all of your YouTube, your Twitch, I have everything in the show notes. If anybody wants to follow Jeff Grubb, everything is all you gotta do is click in the show notes. It's there. Jeff, thank you so much for hanging out, brother. And we definitely got to get you back here, maybe after E3, so we could talk about what exactly happened.
That would be fantastic. That sounds good to me. Have a good night, boys. I'm going to go check on these kids that have been streaming
absolutely.
all night.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. Take care,
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Good night, Jeff.
Listen, gentlemen, first of all, I didn't want to, I'm really speaking to the chat. I know that there's been a ton of super chats, and I want to get everyone's opinion. Let me grab these super chats, because I didn't want to do that with Jeff here, because obviously we only had him. I didn't know how long we had him for. So let me bang out these super chats, because there's been quite a few of them. And then we'll close out with your opinions and then do some outros. The first one of the night comes to our very good friend. I think Pong, you might know this cat. His name is Fun Speculation.
Oh, that guy? Yeah. Yeah, he
guy,
hangs
that's
around
right.
every once in a while.
That's right. And you know something about fun speculation? First of all, congratulations live on the air. His channel just crossed 1,000 subs. And folks, as a YouTuber, you don't understand how important that is. And he did it in record time. And do you know why? Him, Caitlin, 3-Bit, and the rest of the crew, including Pong Soul, did it on that show because the show is damn good. And it's called the Xbox Ultimate Podcast. It airs Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you love Boom, if you love this channel, then you should head over to Fun Speculation on YouTube and sub his channel. Tell him that Boom sent you. His first super chat of the day comes at $5 and says, let's go. Shout out to friends on the show and in the chat. Boom is the boss. Hi, Pong, brother. And of course, you guys are brothers from another mother. Kay Asante, a generous friend of the show, he drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, salute to the crew. Mr. Boom and friends, my brother Everborn, the man with the main, Mr. Jeff Grubb, been looking forward to this show all day. Well, thanks so much for that, dude. And I hopefully you enjoyed yourself. I'm Easy drops a $5 super chat and says, hello, Boom. Hello, everyone. I can't wait for E3 and this fall, and I can't wait for Microsoft to acquire a big publisher, Sega, Capcom, Mr. Grubb, please rumors. And our very good brother, Gaming Forte. That's right. You know that guy. He is one of the voices of the DPS podcast, which he airs with Slow Mo Backslap and has been absolutely fantastic. He drops a $5 super chat and says, great show, gentlemen. Hope you all had a great weekend. Just wanted to show love and say I miss you and I appreciate all of you. Plus, hashtag Starfield 2020. Well, listen, dude, we miss you and we love you too, brother. Thank you for that. I'm Easy drops an additional $5 super chat and says, I've always said to my wife that Battlefield 6 drops on Game Pass day one. We will buy a second Series X as military's Battlefield is really dear for us. Yeah, Bill, I think it does. I think it does because Battlefield is, even though Call of Duty took a total step back, I think going back to the 1950s with Vanguard was a mistake, and I think Battlefield releasing up against behemoths that have currently taken over the market. And of course, going to be talking about Halo Infinite is going to be free multiplayer. Fortnite is free to play. Apex Legends is free to play. Warzone is free to play. If they can jump into Game Pass day and date and it's as good as I think it's going to be, my God, do they have a chance to really steal some thunder from all of these titles. Jimbo Jangles, good name and generous friend of the show, he drops an outstanding $10 super chat and says, hey, Boom and crew, just left work and tuned into the show, turned the show on. Do you think Nintendo and Xbox take the stage together at E3 for a major announcement? Sorry, was this already talked about? No, it wasn't. And yes, I do. Here's two things that are going to happen. Master Chief going into Smash Brothers. That's a guarantee. But I think that Game Pass going on to Nintendo and Microsoft working with them to revamp their online system using Azure is going to be announced. It's going to be a partnership that's going to be announced. And I'm going to throw this out there just because, sometimes when you throw things to the universe, sometimes the universe answers. Just imagine this for a second. Microsoft, Rare, they don't want to work on a new Banjo-Kazooie. Okay, no problem. So you know what they do? They give the IP to Nintendo and say, let's see what your team can do. They've been working on this for 3 years. And that's right. A new Banjo-Kazooie is going to be published for the Nintendo side by Nintendo and on the Xbox side by Microsoft. And it's going to be a dual release on both consoles. We're getting a new Banjo-Kazooie made and developed by Nintendo. That's just my take on it, but I could be 100% wrong. Dan the Man Cunningham drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, hey, Boom and crew, the 360 gen had demo discs allowing try before you buy. Last gen sorely needed something like that. Game Pass is that option this gen. Indeed it is. And for $15 a month, you can't pass it up. Games Play HUD Zero drops a $5 super chat and says, I think everyone in the industry has taken notice. Everyone wants a piece of the Game Pass pie. Samsung, TCL, consumer brands, etc. Xbox is the hotness. And let me tell you something. I spoke to not one, but two developers, which will remain nameless because I told them I would never mention it to them, out in public. They told me personally that there is an actual waiting list to get into Xbox Game Pass because of how well it's doing. Everyone, that is anyone, wants a piece of that Microsoft cash flow, and Game Pass is bringing it to you. Nightwolf 3186, generous friend of the show, he drops an outstanding $10 super chat, says, boom, if Splinter Cell does eventually make it, exclusive or not, I will jump through the roof. Yeah, that makes both of us. I need that game back badly. Also, I say you close the show with that. Go dark, cue the goggle sounds. Yeah, indeed, dude. That's exactly how I do it. And Game Player HUD Zero drops an additional $10 super chat, says, hey, boom, Speculation Town. What if Phil went to all of the Xbox XGS teams and asked, if you had an opportunity, what franchise would you like to work on if we got it? Food for thought. I think that conversation has already happened. But Pong, did I get your opinion on the acquisitions? What you're expecting?
Yes,
okay.
you did.
So let's look at Everborn Saga. Everborn, for you, look, I mean, every E3 we think that Microsoft is going to make a big acquisition. I'm going to be honest with you. The one that I'm actually surprised Jeff didn't say it, and I'll say it live on the air, is I think that the next acquisition is the foothold in Japan, and they purchased Kojima Productions. And I think he walks out on stage, the virtual stage with Phil, and announces that. And again, I said this with King. We hear that it's not a 1-game deal, it's a 3-game deal. And if he becomes first party, well, you know what? Sony didn't want him anymore. Stadia closed down. Why not Microsoft getting this dude? Why not letting him go crazy and just make a game that will resonate not only with the people here in this country, more specifically in Japan, where they want to succeed, where they failed before? What are your thoughts?
So a couple of things, and I do want to give a shout out to the Iron Lords, because they had some of the game directors from Obsidian.
Yes, they sure did. Sunday show was wild.
And one of the things that they pointed out that I think we should be sort of shouting this more from the rooftop is that they said, being acquired by Microsoft provided them the stability to make the games they wanted. There was no sort of top down, hey, make this kind of game because analytics show us XYZ. It is be creative and do what you do best and make games. That's what's important to us. So how do we relate that to a Kojima Productions kind of thing? I think that if a Kojima deal does happen, it happens because Phil says, or Matt Booty says, or Sarah Bond says, hey, you, Kojima, do you. Just make what you want. But I don't know if that necessarily means an acquisition. I think it means a partnership in the beginning that maybe can grow into something more. But to Mag's point earlier, I don't know how much of a sort of 4-quadrant game, whatever the potential game that Kojima makes is, especially since they're going to tell him, make literally whatever you want. Right. So that's the Kojima thing. Now, acquisition wise, you already know my stance on this. I think it should be Capcom, right? If they can get them. That said, I think something that is looking more and more enticing in terms of sort of positioning itself to be scooped up right now, obviously, is Sega. We saw they just sold their American arcade business, right? So they are, and we know a little while back that they shed off another part of the company. So they are segmenting or selling off all the parts of the business a potential suitor would not want, right?
Or maybe couldn't have.
Right. And so it makes them more attractive. Now, I hear a lot of people saying things about, well, if it's a Japanese studio, there are some rules around what an outside, like a foreign investment that can happen. But guess what? Hogue Law made a great video when he was talking about, what the ins and outs of the Square acquisition might be. And that is not likely. However, what he did say is there is nothing really out there that says an American company cannot buy a Japanese company. There are rules out there that says if there is more than 10% of investment from a foreign investor, that it will be subject to a period of review. But even then, it is only in certain sectors, and video games are not mentioned in those sectors. So, and it all, even then, it is subject to a review period. And we've seen, just like with the Bethesda deal, that was subject to a review period from the EU. So there's nothing really precluding it. It is just up to the folks at Microsoft to make a deal that works. The thing that makes it difficult that Jeff was talking about was, right now it is a seller's market as it relates to studios and publishers. Because right now we have heard Satya Nadella and Phil say we are on the hunt. If I am a publisher, I'm saying, hey, you're Microsoft, you got money, I want, $10 billion, right? I might not be worth that, but that's what I want. And I know you need me. Right. So that makes the deals a lot harder, because Microsoft has advertised that they want to spend. People are hearing about Bethesda, Discord, and nuanced deals that Microsoft literally has money burning a hole in their pocket, because, it's a new administration. Taxes may go up. Right. They have foreign money that they may have to repatriate and pay taxes on. So they want to get rid of these things. Or the $100 and whatever billion they have sitting in the bank is collecting interest, but not as much as it would as if it was just an acquisition. So they want to do these acquisitions, and that's fine. One other thing that we need to keep in mind: the shareholders at Microsoft, which are the ones okaying all of this, that they're above Phil, they're even above Satya. The shareholders want to invest in gaming right now. Yeah. I just hope, because we're seeing a lot of market consolidation. What I don't want to happen, what I'm always mindful of, is Microsoft buys everybody, and then the pandemic, sometime next year, whenever it is, comes to a real end and people go outside again. And then the board sees people are playing less games because they can finally go outside again. And they confused this large increase in income with the pandemic and it being a trend instead of an outlier. So I don't want the gaming market to consolidate and then contract, because then we may lose some of our favorite studios and publishers. Just keeping that in mind to the side. So, I know that we all have our dream acquisitions, but we don't want everyone to buy up everybody. We can't help it. So if it's going to happen, we want it to be the guys we care about. So I do acknowledge that. Now, another one this is my last point. Another one that we never talk about. We talked about Sega. We talked about Square, right? But why does no one talk about Bandai Namco, right? They are not as expensive as Sega or Square or Capcom, and they have a lot of IPs, and they have seemed like in previous statements that they would be open to a deal or some kind of an acquisition. And think of all the IPs they would get there, and that would put them in the Japanese market in a big way. But I love Jeff's idea about opening a studio and showing the Japanese market that Microsoft is invested in that region, and then they can build out from there. But it starts with Tango. Maybe they build the Japanese version of the initiative, and then you see who you can acquire from there. But if we can't get Capcom, I love the idea of Sega as well, if only to bring Sonic back to his former glory and give him a AAA game and stop whoring him around to every little mobile deal or any other developer or licensing deal you can get. Lock down Sonic, bring him back to former glory. That's my point on there. And I've talked long enough.
All right. Well, good stuff as always. Mag, let's get your opinion on this. One of the important points that people don't talk about is, at least in my opinion, the way Sony has gone about dismissing Japan has been very blatant. We're seeing YouTubers from Japan get out there and talk about this, right? We're seeing how people have a distaste for it. Microsoft is charging forward as Sony's retreating, and starting a new studio would be huge. But more importantly, getting a Japanese company in an acquisition, would be even bigger, in my opinion. Are you expecting, any of these acquisition talks to come, to the conversation during E3 for Microsoft this year?
I think that there's going to be third-party announcements. I do not think that there'll be any acquisition talk during E3. I don't think that they're that far along. I think we would have heard rumors by now. We would have heard something by now. That's just what I'm thinking. And I don't know. I just don't see it. What I do see is that they will talk about, as I was saying earlier in the show, they're going to talk about a partnership with Hideo Kojima. I think that'll be something. I think that anything else, will come further down the line, and it might be the kind of thing that they might discuss at let's say an EXO 2021, whatever you want to call it this year. If they even have one, or whatever kind of digital event they're going to be doing and that kind of thing. I think they'll talk about that kind of thing there. At E3, I think they're going to focus more on Game Pass. And, of course, whatever third-party and first-party titles are becoming a Game Pass, they're going to focus on other games that are coming out, preferably gameplay. Also, like everyone was saying about Halo, I think absolutely Halo will be number one, will be the big showcase and everything else. In terms of acquisitions, I do not see it happening at E3. I'm not saying it's not happening. I'm just saying I think they're going to be talking more, like I said, third-party deals, partnerships with possibly Kojima, that kind of thing, and of course Game Pass, and of course first-party titles and actual gameplay of the games that they've been talking about for forever. So we'll see what happens. But in terms of Japanese success, this is the time to strike. I mean, this is absolutely the time to strike, because now Sony stepped in it, okay, and now they pulled out.
Have.
And the thing is, it's interesting about Sony is that yes, I understand what they're doing. I really do understand, because they're like, hey, where's the money right now? The money's not in Japan for them. The money is in the United States. Okay. And of course, neighboring countries, obviously Canada, South America, that kind of place. And then of course, Europe, Australia. The market is essentially the Western market, right? So they're focusing on that. I get it. Jim Ryan is a numbers guy. I get it. He's like, guys, look at the numbers here. Look at the numbers in Japan. Shouldn't we focus on here? This is where our bread and butter is. You know what I mean? Would you open up a French fry stand? You know what I mean? Or like from a food truck in a neighborhood with nobody in it? Or would you go to the neighborhood that's bustling with full of people, all standing around waiting to spend their money? Of course you're going to take the food truck there, right? So that, I don't know, that's the way I see it. But anyways, the good thing is, by Sony pulling out like that, that leaves a big gaping hole for Microsoft to come swoop right in and then start cultivating relationships, partnerships, that kind of thing, and then maybe acquisitions in the future. I know my heart is set on Capcom. I mean, that would be my absolute dream if they could get Capcom. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. Who knows? If that remains to be seen. But anyways, the point is, now is the time to cultivate, because now Sony's left a bad taste in their mouth. They've moved out. That's where Microsoft can move in and say, hey, listen, guys, we're not here trying to change you. We don't want to make you, quote unquote, American.
Keep doing what you're doing.
We want you to preserve your gaming culture. How incredible would that be to hear? Here's essentially endless money. Okay, you never have to worry about your budgets. You don't have to worry about keeping your lights on. You don't have to worry about paying your staff. We got that. You preserve your gaming culture, and we will not interfere. My God, how attractive would that be?
Of course,
that is unbelievable. Who wouldn't line up for that? Like, you know what I'm saying?
A lot of the teams, a lot of the team members that left Studio Japan to start their own things would be like, wait, acquire us. We want to get back at Sony for them destroying what we did, and we're going to make those kind of games for Xbox. We'll take that bag of money and that security.
Right. Why exactly? And the thing is, like I said, and Phil said it many times. They've said it many times. Matt Booty's also said it. we're not interested. They're not interested, in doing the same thing over and over and over again with all the same, the studios making the exact same games. Okay. They actually, even on ILP on Sunday, when they had the Obsidian dev and the director there on the show, they said the exact same thing. They said they kind of frown upon us being samey. That's the word she used.
Yeah.
Samey. Okay. They want diversity in their gaming lineup. And on top of that, they've also said that Phil and company and Matt will give them room to breathe, to be able to do what they need to do. And so why, like I said, how much more attractive could that be? Phil's not going to Japan and say, hey, make a Last of Us Xbox version. You know what I mean? He's not saying that to them. He's not saying, yeah, you see Kratos over there? Yeah, make one like that. Because that's what the analytics said. No, he's not. He's just saying preserve your culture. Preserve your gaming culture. And we all know, let's face it, the Japanese gaming culture, I'm not really into it that much anymore. Okay, I really am not. I mean, except for Capcom and, a sprinkle of Square games. I'm not really into the Japanese scene anymore. But we can't deny that that's where it started. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where it all began. Well, yeah, okay, Pong was not created there. But anyways, the point is, all those other games, Nintendo and everything else, they were all in the arcade games. They were all created in Japan, okay? They have a very rich, deep gaming culture and history. And so Phil's not trying to mess with it. He just wants you to continue it. That's unbelievable. I'd be lined up day one. That's all I got to say.
No, absolutely. And Clowns, let's get your final opinion about this, about the studio acquisitions, get you on out of here, get everyone out of here. What do you think about that? Do you think we get any acquisitions, small, medium, or large at E3? Or do you think that this is something that not to expect? We should just expect games?
Well, as a diehard Xbox fan, and as a fan who gets really excited and pumped up when Xbox is on fire, I would like to see some more acquisitions. Not because I want to see Xbox and Microsoft own everything, but because I want to see acquisitions of companies that could use that kind of cash flow and they could live longer as being part of a bigger corporation like Xbox. So I would be excited to see some announcements. I mean, I have thoughts in my head of what I think acquisitions might be coming up, and I could be completely wrong. I'm just going to throw some out there. Like, I still really hope for a Sega Atlas acquisition, and I know they just sold the Western Arcade division, and it kind of lightens them up a little bit. So I'm hoping for something like that. As far as games, I think, I don't want to see the same stuff over and over again. I want them to come out, even if it's clips of like 30 seconds, 60 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, of stuff from new games or secret projects they're working on. Just show us what's in the pipeline. Get us excited. Get people who don't have an Xbox to say, man, I really want to get an Xbox today. Man, I would love to have the Series S today. Or, you know what? Man, I will subscribe to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and play Xbox Cloud on one of many devices I might have. They need to come out, wow us with that. They're on top right now with all the news. They're on fire. This is where we usually see Xbox bite themselves in the foot when they come up to big shows like this. So let's hope that we don't see any of that happen. It's all positive press from this. And it gives the other companies like Nintendo and Sony something to think about. Be like, wow, how can we compete with these guys? How can we make gaming better?
Yeah,
that's what I'm hoping for, Boom.
Well, that's a fantastic point. Well, listen, this has been an amazing show. We had almost 600 people here on top of Jeff Grubb. Obviously, we know Jeff Grubb from Venture Beat and, of course, his YouTube channel, Jeff's Game Mess. But also, real quick, our good friend Enrique from the Basement Radio Arcade Podcast drops a very generous $2 super chat, and a $5 super chat comes in, and I don't know how to pronounce this. It is ISAIAHYT. I don't know how to pronounce that, and I don't want to butcher it because I know I'm going to. He drops an outstanding $5 with chances. Hey, Boom, great show and great show panel. How do you guys feel about Resident Evil demo? It was really dope. Yes, I loved every minute of it. I just wanted a little bit more, and unfortunately, you can only get half an hour out of it, and then you're done. But you know what? I'm okay with that because I really want to enjoy the game when it releases next month into Xbox Game Pass. That's right. You heard it here first. But let's get to the outros, and then we'll get everyone out of here. Pong Soul, thank you so much for being here. You're going to be back here tomorrow at noon
I am.
during the Xbox Factor podcast. We have an amazing show that goes live at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tell everyone about what shows you're on, including your new Saturday show, Living Split Screen, which has seen an incredible acceptance from the community, as well as what other shows you're on.
Thank you so much, Boom. What an incredible show. Clowns, Mag, Everborn. Absolutely a pleasure to be here with you guys. And of course, Mr. Grub himself being here made it extra special tonight. But man, thank you so much for the invite, Boom. Friday nights, you can find me on Xbox Ultimate with Fun Speculation, aka Mav, my brother from another, his wife, Caitlin, Assassin Lupa. We got Lady AF now, Psychonauts, and of course 3-Bit. Come join us 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 o'clock Central Time. Fun show. We always have a good time, but come drop by and see us. I think you'll enjoy that. Saturday mornings, yes, as Boom was just saying, Living Split Screen with my other brother from another, Steel Rain. We just did episode number 4 a couple days ago. Again, incredible turnout by the community. The love and support in this community is absolutely amazing, including yourself, Boom. Thank you so much for helping us do all this. We have a great show. We wake you guys up in the morning if you're in the United States. It's 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Central Time. But come see us. We have it's just him and I. We just talk, and we talk with the chat, but we talk about everything across the industry. It's not any console, exclusive. We talk about everything and anything. We even broke out the Nintendo Indie Show last weekend. So just come by, see us 3 p.m. UK time. We have a great show, live, raw, and uncut, as Steele likes to say. But yeah, a great turnout. We continue to grow there. Saturday nights, the Shop Podcast with PTK Blam, Fuzzy Belvedere, Centurion, and Stagorilla. Another great show. We just had Lord Sov last week, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 o'clock Central Time. Quick show. We try to keep it a little bit over an hour. Last week ran long, of course. Anytime you get an Iron Lord on there, it happens to run long, but we had a great time there. And then otherwise, like you said, Boom, I'll be back here tomorrow, Tuesdays, Xbox Factor Podcast, Pong Soul everywhere. So go ahead and follow me. Thank you, guys. Thank you, chat. It was awesome.
Thanks so much for that. And of course, Everborn Saga. Why don't you tell us about what you got going on? Obviously, you talked to us about, the hardcover books are going to be coming very, very soon. Talk about Everborn Saga and where can people check that anime out?
All right. So the first thing I want everybody to do is before you do anything, click that like button. We can get a few more before we get out of here, but check me out at everbornsaga.com. That is where you can get caught up to date on the Everborn Saga. We have Prince of Arcadia chapters 1 through 3 there right now. We just placed our print order from the Kickstarter. So if you contributed to that campaign, your book will be coming as soon as we get those prints in, and you should already have your t-shirts and posters on the way to you, and you probably have your digital rewards in your emails.
Yep.
You can also find me at Everborn Saga everywhere. That's PlayStation, Xbox, Steam, and if you want to talk to me directly, you can get me on Twitter. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at Everborn Saga. But check out everbornsaga.com, see what we got to offer there. And we have new things coming soon. I will announce them as soon as they are ready. Boom, you have seen some of it. So you saw the cover for the next book we're going to do. So there's more coming in the saga. Check out everbornsaga.com and check me out at Everborn Saga on Twitter. And thanks to Jeff Grubb being here. That was one of my sort of gaming community bucket list things to be on a show with him. So thanks, Boom, for making that happen. And thanks, Jeff, for coming out here.
That's big deal for me. Big deal for this panel, of course. Next week, I have a surprise guest. I'm waiting for confirmation. You might know him. I think you do. And, of course, the following week, we're going to have Miles Dompierre from Windows Central. He's going to be joining us, very similar to what Jeff Grubb. He's making a big name for himself. He's had some big star power on his show, including, of course, Jeff Grubb and Paris Lilly from the Xcast and many others. And he's going to be joining us on May 3rd, the May 3rd edition of Primetime Gaming. And hopefully by then, we'll have a new intro that's currently in development from our good friend Diego. And of course, he's going to be doing also a new panel for the background, what you see on the screen. It'll be hopefully we can unveil that next week. Middle-aged gamer guy, man, why don't we get you out of here? Tell everyone about where they could reach out to you on social media, but more importantly, where other shows can they listen to the loudest Canadian this side of the East Coast?
Yes, well, before I even get started, I just want to say tonight was an absolute pleasure. Chat, you guys are amazing as always. Panel, you guys are amazing as always. And of course, a special shout out to our extra special guest, Jeff Grubb himself. Yes, it was a great show tonight. Guys, you can follow me on Twitter at the Middle Age Game Guy. That's with a GY at the end. On the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, you can follow me at all one word, all capitals, because I don't know how to be quiet. It is I am the Mag. That's with 2 G's. Yes, you can find me here every Monday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Mr. Boomstick XL and friends on Primetime Gaming. And of course, Tuesday nights, not this Tuesday though, I have something going on, but on Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can find me with Noof Nukem and Titan Drago on Gaming After Dark. Guys, once again, it was a pleasure. I already look forward to next week. Everybody have a great week of gaming. Have a great week in general, and we'll all see you then.
Thanks so much. And clowns, man, you've been doing some great things at Four Guys with Quarters. You've been banging it out with the interviews. Tell everyone about where they can reach out to you on social media. But more importantly, check out Four Guys with Quarters on YouTube and all of your favorite RSS feeds.
Yeah, Italian Clowns on all social media, and then 4GWQ Podcast. We've kind of rebranded to be 4GQ TV because now we've expanded, beyond video games. We've been getting actors, actresses on. Last interview we did was with Brian Neal, who's a stunt actor, and he was in Lovecraft Country. He's going to be in an upcoming movie called Devotion. Pretty big guy. He's a SAG-AFTRA actor, and he's a TV Academy Awards card holder, so he can vote in different events and show up to the Emmys and Oscars and all that stuff. And I have something very excited that I can sort of announce, but not fully announce. So I'm going to tell you guys this. On Thursday, we have a very big interview. Once we announce the interview, you guys are going to be shocked. It's somebody with over 1 million followers on Twitter, and it's going to be a huge interview. Boom. It's a company that you love. So
okay, here we go. That. Nice, dude. Yep. Nice. And that's this Thursday.
This Thursday is when we do the interview, so it'll probably be uploaded Friday.
Nice. Well, we're looking forward to that. And of course, I want to thank the nearly 600 people that came out to support Double Barrel Gaming. We are on the march to 10,000 subs, and we are already at 8,100. And again, obviously, when you get there, if you're not subscribed, first of all, why not? Because we do a lot of live coverage and live shows weekly. This particular week, I'm doing 5 straight days of live coverage. Wednesday, I have a big interview with the developer and the founder of for the company Sketchbook Games, which they just released Lost Words. I'm playing that right now. It is an emotional tale that is probably one of my favorite games of 2021. Be sitting down with the creator, founder of that company, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yes, he agreed to do it live. We're going to do a live interview. I've already sent him the questions. He's approved it, and I cannot wait for Wednesday. And of course, Tuesday, Xbox Factor Podcast. Thursday, Xbox Factor Podcast. And of course, Friday, Breakfast with Boom. If you can't get enough of me, you're going to have something to listen to every day. And of course, I want to thank the incredible generosity that continues to come in and support Double Barrel Gaming. And you know what? All of these super chats are going to go to the $1,200 in prizes we're going to be giving away once we hit 10,000 subs. We're going to be giving away a Series X with a year of Game Pass and a Series S with a year of Game Pass for free. And all you got to do, folks, is be a subscriber to Double Barrel Gaming and help us cross 10,000 subs. And hopefully we can do that before E3 2021 in a couple of months. So everyone, take care. Have a good evening. Be safe. And I'll close out today's show with something that's important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were young. And he used to say, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends.